Hi guys, it's me Chaz HD and welcome late to a late stream for the race watch along for the 2019 Russian Grand Prix in Sochi. And of course we are waiting very patiently for the race to start, and I cannot wait for this Grand Prix today. Again, very big apologies about the stream being late, but I couldn't do anything about it. I had absolutely no control over the situation. Basically, as you guys will know if you've watched the streams and the videos for a long time now, I use a laptop for streaming, and if anyone has any, intelligence or, has any experience of streaming, you'll know that laptops are not good for streaming. Now, I do have a new PC, but I haven't had time to set it up, so I was going to, this weekend was going to be the last weekend I was ever going to use this laptop. So today is its last day of being used, and this is its parting gift. I have to say, I cannot wait for it to be gone. So this hopefully will not happen again in 2019 because I have a new PC. But yeah, thank God that after today I will not have to use this crap laptop again. But hopefully you guys are doing well, and we'll have Nib on later on, and hopefully his mic levels should be better today, because I think I found a setting which has really helped that, so we'll get into that later on. But because we're starting, 25 minutes late, I believe, we're going to have to rush through a bit some of the build-up. So let's first, before we get into the teams and quickly preview how I think they're going to do, let's first get into the results of qualifying. So Charles Leclerc got pole position, from Lewis Hamilton in second, Sebastian Vettel was third, Max Verstappen was P4, Valtteri Bottas P5, Carlos Sainz P6, Hulkenberg P7, Norris P8, Grosjean P9, Ricciardo P10, and then it was Gasly, Perez, Giovinazzi, Magnussen, Stroll knocked out in Q2, and knocked out in Q1 was Raikkonen, Russell, Kubica, Albon and Kvyat. Now, for grid penalties, Max Verstappen will start in P9 because of his new ICE. Gasly will start 16th because of his new ICE. Kvyat is starting at the back of the grid that is starting on the grid. Alex Albon, though, is taking on a completely new power unit. So Alex Albon will be starting from the pit lane. So there you go. That's your grid. And yeah, let's now quickly go through the teams and how I think they're going to do. So first off, Mercedes. Now, it's going to be a tough race for them. For them to win the race, it's going to take a lot. It's going to take the tyres they're starting on, the medium compound, to really work for them. And if they are going to win the race, it's going to be because of them starting on the medium compound tyre. One thing Lewis Hamilton has to do is hold off Sebastian Vettel at the start, because if he gets beat by Vettel into turn 1 and it's a Ferrari 1-2, I don't see how Lewis Hamilton can possibly win, because I don't think the Ferraris are going to be comfortably overtook at any point. So the start is really crucial to Lewis Hamilton and the team's race result, but really when it comes to the race victory, it comes down to the medium compound tyres working for this team, and from their point of view, of course, they'll be hoping it does work. Next up, Ferrari, and as I said, if they have a 1-2 at the end of the first lap, which is quite likely because the run down to turn 2, the first proper corner on this track, if they, get in 1 and 2 at that corner, which is likely because of the straight line speed they have, then I think they will win this race. Maybe not get a 1-2, but they will win the Grand Prix, because they are going to be so hard to pass down the pit straight and any other straight around this track, unless, Lewis is going a second faster or something. So Ferrari, if they get the start absolutely right, I think the race victory is absolutely there for them. But let's see later on in half an hour if they can get that right. Next up is Red Bull. Albon, of course, starting at the back. Hopefully he can just, race the wheels off his Red Bull and get a good result. For Max Verstappen, of course, starting P9. What Max has to do is get past the midfield, of course, as quickly as possible, and then start getting after the front four, because I think Max Verstappen, if he was starting from where he qualified in P4, I think Max Verstappen could finish on the podium, but because he's starting in P9, that's going to be pretty tough. But he can get in that fight as long as he gets ahead of the midfield early on. So hopefully for Red Bull, he can do that. Next up is Renault. Good qualifying for them. I think, was it P7 and P10, I believe. And they're going to be starting P6 and P10. It's a good qualifying. Can they convert it? I'm not too sure because Renault have not been that great at converting good qualifying results into good race results. Hopefully they do, because it would really help out their, latter half of 2019. But it is going to be a tough race because McLaren, I think, are going to be very quick. And there'll be some very quick runners, starting just outside the top 10 on whatever tyres they want to. So it will be a tough race for Renault. And it will be quite an achievement, I think, for them to get both cars into the points. For McLaren, I think they are going to be the best midfield team today. I think they have the best car around this track in the midfield. Carlos Sainz is starting P5. If anything goes off ahead, you never know. He could be running in third place, and definitely that is a possibility of stuff going off ahead because we've had plenty of crashes at turn 1, turn 2. Here in the past. So I think McLaren are in for a good race today. Carlos Sainz, I think, will be at the front of the midfield for most of the race. And Lando Norris can definitely go quicker than what he did in qualifying. So look out for McLaren. I think they are going to be the best midfield team today. Next up is Alfa Romeo. Antonio Giovinazzi, despite the Alfa not being that great in qualifying, is in a good position for the race because he's P12 and can start on whatever tyres he wants to. So look out for Antonio Giovinazzi, a man who is really on form at the moment. Kimi Räikkönen is a man who is not on form. He is starting from 15th, and I don't really think Kimi is going to do that well today because he hasn't really looked good at all during the entire weekend. But definitely, if Alfa Romeo are going to finish in the points, it's going to be with Antonio Giovinazzi. I don't know where he'll finish if he does get into the points, but if they are going to finish in the points, then it is going to probably be him. But for Alfa, they have got to get in that top 10, because if they don't, then I think they can call 2019 quits, honestly. Next up is Haas. Of course, Romain Grosjean qualified in P9 and will start the race from P8. Very, very good result for Romain. Kevin Magnussen also starting the race from 13th, and the race pace of the Haas on Friday was actually not that bad, and tyre wear around this track is not as bad as other circuits. So if Haas are going to score points at, say, one race remaining for the rest of 2019, this is most likely going to be the track where they do it. So look out for Haas being in that top 10. They're going to be very, a lot more competitive than they have been previously. So definitely look out for the Haas F1 team in the race today. Toro Rosso had a not too bad qualifying because Pierre Gasly was P11, which was actually probably slightly faster than expected, to be honest, from Pierre. But of course, with the 5-place penalty, he starts from 16th place. Daniel Kvyat will start from 19th. So Toro Rosso are not exactly in for a great race, and it's not like Toro Rosso have, fundamentally this weekend a good car. If you've looked at the Toro Rosso this weekend, you will know that this car has not been good this weekend. It really has not been handling well, and I don't think it has enough pace to come from the back to get into the points. If we get some chaos and some, retirements, maybe, but I just don't think it quite has the pace this weekend. Hopefully, though, Daniel Kvyat has a better weekend, a better race today than his weekend so far, because he's had so many reliability issues. Hopefully something goes right for him today. Final midfield team, Racing Point. Qualifying was disappointing for Racing Point. Both drivers messed up their final run in Q2, so they probably could have done better than at the time it was P12 and P14, but they're starting the race from P11 and P14. Actually, Stroll qualified in 15th, so we're starting P14. Because Perez is the first runner, or not the first runner, or is he the first runner? Yeah, he is the first runner to start outside the top 10 on whatever tyres he wants to. Because of the pace of the car, that I think, there is a good pace in there, I think Perez is definitely a dark horse to get into the points today. He's always been good at this track, and Racing Point, when it comes to the race, have always had a good race result, or a satisfactory race result for them. So Sergio Perez is one to look out for. Lance Stroll, I'm not too sure will be that good today because this isn't really a good track for Lance. He's never gone well here, so yeah, don't expect Lance to be that great. But Racing Point should be a lot better than they were in qualifying. And the final team, of course, is Williams, and they are going to be at the very back. Now, because we only have 24 minutes left, and of course we started late, I think it's now time that we just go straight into the tyre situation. Guys, I am sorry, again, that we had the tech issues and I started 25 minutes late, but again, my computer is so crap. And today was always going to be the final day of use for this laptop before I go to an ultra powerful PC for the next Grand Prix on. And this is, I guess, its parting gift. So, yeah, sorry about that. And sorry that we won't be reading the chat as much today because obviously I started late. But, you know, there's nothing we could do about that. But yeah, we'll go into the tyre situation now. Now, tyres are going to be not as critical as Singapore, but they are going to be important today because, for one, Lewis Hamilton and Valtteri Bottas are starting P2 and P4 respectively on the medium compound tyres. And, of course, Leclerc and Vettel P1 and P3 respectively are on the soft compound tyre. Now, if you're starting on the medium, you're probably going to go to about lap 21, lap 22 before you pit for the hard compound tyre. And for Mercedes, they're not going to go onto the soft tyre. I mean, you can see there they don't even have a new set, and there would be no reason to go onto the soft tyre for the final 32 laps because it wouldn't last that long, the soft tyre. So what they are going to do, Mercedes, is pit probably, again, around lap 21, lap 22, and then put the hard compound on. And that is when the race will really come to Lewis Hamilton in terms of grip and tyre wear, because Ferrari, because they're starting on the soft tyre, they're probably going to pit Ferrari around lap 15, lap 16. And of course, because Mercedes are starting on the harder compound, that will mean that, Lewis, after his first and only pit stop, will have 6 to 7 laps fresher tyres. And that would make possibly a key difference to who wins this Grand Prix. But again, when it comes to tyres, if you're starting on the soft compound, you're probably going to pit around lap 15 to lap 16. If you pit from the mediums, so you start the mediums, of course, you're going to go to about lap 21, lap 22. And then if you start on the hard compound, which I wouldn't be surprised if a couple runners did, then you're probably going to run until about lap 30, lap 31, and then put a set of mediums on for the final 20-odd laps. So that's what I think will happen on strategy. And looking down the screen, there's also another thing I want to point out that's quite interesting, is that Kimi Räikkönen does not have a new set of hard compound tyres. He does have a used set, so he could use that. But if he is to start on the medium, he doesn't have a fresh set of tyres to go to in terms of the hard compound. So maybe Kimi might use or start on the used set of hard compound tyres and then go to the soft late on if he can extend the hard compound stint to, say, lap 37. Then that is a possibility. But that's what I think will happen. Today, when it comes to tyres, let me just scroll up to so you guys can see again the tyre situation right there. But now it's time to get into our predictions for this Russian Grand Prix. Now, guys, in the chat, make sure to put your predictions in, and we will definitely make sure, once me and Nib have made our predictions, we'll make sure to read yours out in the final 15 or 12 or whatever minutes are remaining time until the race gets underway. So make sure to put that in the chat. And also, don't forget to subscribe, because we do, and I promise, once I get the new PC working, we will be doing Practice 2, qualifying and race watch-alongs for every race remaining in 2019, and hopefully for 2020 as well. So don't forget to subscribe for that. Bottom right of the screen, you can do it right there, or go to my homepage, subscribe, and hit the notifications bell. And also, don't forget to hit the like button for more content like this. And if you do want to help the channel grow, then also hit the like button. But now, let's get into the predictions. And in my opinion, winning this Grand Prix will be Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari, because I think at the start, this is what I think will happen. Charles Leclerc will get away fine in P1, but Sebastian Vettel will overtake Lewis Hamilton down into turn 2, through turn 3, and will make it a Ferrari 1-2. And then because Ferrari will have a car in between, Hamilton and Leclerc, that will allow Charles Leclerc to build a gap, because he has been clearly faster than Sebastian Vettel this weekend. And that will allow Charles Leclerc to comfortably win the 2019 Russian Grand Prix. Of course, if he does get a race victory today, it will be his first victory in Russia, and Ferrari are going for their first ever win here in Russia. And also Ferrari today going for their 4th consecutive win. That's the first time, if they do that, that'd be the first time since 2008 that they did 4 consecutive wins in a season. In second place, I'm going to go for Sebastian Vettel, because again, I think Vettel will beat Hamilton into turn 2, and I think Sebastian's race pace today will not be as bad as what his qualifying pace was. And I think Sebastian will go better today, and I don't think Mercedes will find a way past. I think, Sebastian, again, he'll pit around lap 15, get a bit of an undercut on Lewis Hamilton, even though he'll be ahead in my opinion. And then once Lewis Hamilton comes out, he'll have to catch Sebastian Vettel up and pass him. Now, of course, passing the Ferrari in a straight line around a track here in Sochi that is notoriously difficult to pass on, it's going to be very tough. So I think Sebastian Vettel will finish in P2. But if he does win the race, it'll be his first race victory in Russia. And Ferrari, of course, going for their first ever 1-2 here in Russia. And in third place will be Lewis Hamilton. And really, I think the race is going to be won and lost at the start. I think Lewis, again, will get beat into turn 2 by Sebastian Vettel. If he can, though, maintain P2 at the end of the first lap, I think Lewis can absolutely win the Grand Prix. And I think he has a 50% chance of winning if he is P2 at the end of the first lap at least. So, from his point of view, hopefully he can do that. And in terms of just a general race excitement point of view, I hope it is Leclerc and Hamilton P1 and P2, because I think if we do have that, we are going to be having a very, very interesting battle at the front of the grid for the race victory between Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton. But those are my predictions. And now I'm going to bring in Nib. Now, again, just to let you guys know, I think I've fixed Nib's mic levels. If he is still quiet, let me know and I will try and bump his level up. I've now found a setting that can actually increase his microphone level. So let me know, guys, if it's still not quite loud enough, and I'll make sure, if I can, to try and solve it. But Nib is now on the stream. And yeah, Nib, how you doing, mate? And what are your predictions for the Russian Grand Prix?
Doing a lot better than what I was about 12 hours ago, where I could barely speak and I sounded about like a 12-year-old who was having a voice break every 2 seconds. But now I'm doing a lot better, as I said. And well, my predictions are going to be extremely boring because they are exactly the same as yours. So for me, winning the Grand Prix is going to be Charles Leclerc, who at the start is going to stay ahead of Sebastian Vettel and Sebastian Vettel and Lewis Hamilton, of course. But he's going to give his teammate Sebastian Vettel the slipstream, and then, in my opinion, Vettel will get past Hamilton. So then, I don't think throughout the rest of the race that those positions will change, because you've seen it was very hard to overtake last year around this track, and to overtake a Ferrari this year almost seems impossible with their jet mode, as Lewis Hamilton dubbed it yesterday after qualifying. So yeah, I think that Ferrari will have a 1-2 with Vettel finishing second, and then Lewis Hamilton in third.
Yeah, the reason we've gone for similar predictions is I think, again, it's hard to pass here anyway. And yeah, as you said, Ferrari going to be so hard to pass in a straight line. But I think the race today is really going to be decided at the start in terms of what form the race takes for the rest of, the 53 laps. So the start is absolutely crucial for both Ferrari and Mercedes if they want to win the Grand Prix. But before we get into the race, of course, which is getting underway in 14 minutes' time, it's now time to come to you guys in the chat to see what you guys think and to get your predictions ahead of the Grand Prix. As I'll now move on to our final couple pictures, and we'll now see what you guys are saying as to who you think will do well and not so well. Let me find the first prediction. So Emma says Hamilton, Vettel, Leclerc for the race. Mo says Leclerc, Vettel, Verstappen. BM says Leclerc, Hamilton, Verstappen, Vettel. Adrian says Leclerc, Hamilton, Vettel. Mick P, I think it is, says I hope it's Leclerc, Hamilton, or no, Leclerc, Vettel, Hamilton, Verstappen, Bottas. Who else have we got here for predictions? Will F1 says Leclerc to win from Vettel second, Hamilton third, and then Bottas fourth. Max Verstappen fifth. Carlos Sainz is sixth. Lando Norris is 7th, Albon is 8th, Hulkenberg 9th, and Romain Grosjean in P10. Mostly an F1 fans saying Bottas to yeet Leclerc at turn 2. Remember this if it happens. I'll make sure to, if I can. Let me find the next one. Mr. Labman says Max to win. That'd be an absolutely incredible drive if he did. Hamilton second, Vettel third. Astro Stevo says Bottas, Hamilton, Leclerc. Harith Zach, great to see all of you, by the way, in the chat. Leclerc, Vettel, Hamilton. Savage Savs says Vettel, Leclerc, Hamilton, Bottas, Sainz, Verstappen. Let me see if I can find any more. Jan says Leclerc, Vettel, Hamilton. So, right, that's the predictions so far. So let me now move on to a different picture. There you go, Sebastian Vettel in the Ferrari. Nib, now that we've talked about the top teams, for the midfield, who do you think we should be looking out for really when it comes to the midfield battle?
Well, I think the usual suspects, McLaren and Renault, of course. Nico Hulkenberg had a pretty good qualifying session yesterday. I think he starts. Where does Hulkenberg start? I can't even remember. But also very a good performance by Grosjean to get into Q3 yesterday. That was, but of course it's going to be the battle between the Renaults and the McLarens. I think today in the midfield. As you said earlier as well, I think the Racing Points could potentially get a point. Um, uh, Certainly not Lance Stroll, more likely to be Sergio Perez, although Stroll is, of course, very good at getting a good start. As we've seen multiple times this season and over his F1 career, he has fantastic race starts. And perhaps if he can have one, he can perhaps get into the points. But I think that probably I'm going to go Nico Hulkenberg to win the battle of the rest of the midfield, or the best of the rest battle, I should say. He's better than Daniel Ricciardo at this circuit. Ricciardo is absolutely woeful at this circuit. It must be said. We've seen that ever since the inception of the Russian Grand Prix here at Sochi, and thank Christ it is gone for at least next year. But yeah, I think that Hulkenberg will come out on top.
Yeah, with Ricciardo, his best race result here, I think, is last year, where he finished in 6th place. The only reason he finished there, really, was because the car was good enough for the first half of the race to get there, but then he had a front wing problem. And I think the only other race he's finished in the points here was 2014, but that was only like P7 or P8. As you said, and as I've been saying during the weekend, this is probably going to be in the history of his career the worst track on the calendar. ever, because he's just never had anything good happen here. But let me read out some more predictions from you guys. Rossi G. Knoll says Head says Leclerc, Hamilton, Vettel, and Hart says Hamilton, Leclerc, Verstappen. Skull TVD, great to see you, mate. Says McLaren 1-2 is my prediction. Davey says Vettel, Hamilton, Verstappen. Liben says my money is on Hamilton. Mr. Random Guy says that Magnussen said he would dive bomb the field on Instagram. I did see that on Twitter, by the way. He said he was going to make up 13 positions at turn 1 or turn 2. So yeah, watch out for K-Mag, I guess. Rise says Hamilton, Leclerc, Bottas top 3, and he also says Vettel will do a 2018 Ferrari. So I'm guessing he'll spin, is what he means. Ibrahim says Ferrari will win 1 and 2. Alex Divov, I think it is, says Leclerc to win from Bottas, Verstappen, Vettel and Hamilton. Or Vettel and Hamilton to DNF, sorry. So Leclerc, Bottas, Verstappen to be his top 3. And what else have we got for predictions? We've got no more predictions for the moment. So I'll move on to the final picture for now. There you go, of a Red Bull, I believe, of Max Verstappen, as we are now 8.5 minutes away from the 2019 Russian Grand Prix getting underway. Now, I just want to let you guys know what we do on the channel for watch-alongs for, of course, the sessions. So what we do rather, is we will not show, of course, live footage of the session, because that'd be breaking copyright law and the channel would be took down so quickly. So we obviously are not going to do that. So what I'll have is a slideshow of pictures playing one picture every 2 minutes. I'm not quite sure how I set it up last night, but I think it's one picture every 2 minutes is what you'll have on the screen. So that should keep you guys who are watching this stream entertained. What me and Nib are going to do is provide a radio style commentary. So if you can't watch the stream and you can't look at the race, but you can listen to us to keep up to date, then don't worry, me and Nib will keep you up to date, and we'll make sure as well, because I don't have, again, a lap counter that I tried to get up for this stream. What me and Nib are going to do, as ever, is read out what lap it is. So as long as you are listening to the stream, we will make sure every 2 to 3 laps at the absolute most to read out what lap it is. It might be, if we're bored every lap, we'll have to see how the race pans out, but we will make sure to keep you up to date when it comes to that. And also, I'll have a running order running along the bottom of the screen showing the live order of the Grand Prix, and I'll update it as many times as I can as the positions swap around during the race. And also, I no longer have a delay. Of course, you guys will know since Silverstone, when my Skybox broke, because I was using an Apple TV box, I had a delay on my feed for watching Formula 1. Good news, my Skybox is fixed again, and I no longer have a delay. The only delay I have is the usual live stream delay that you get on this website that no one can do anything about, and that delay is, I think, 4 to 5 seconds. So basically, there is no delay at all, so that is good news going into this race. But yep, that's what we do for watch-alongs for anyone who is watching for the first time. But let me now get to, if there is any more predictions, let's see, or any more comments. Let's look to see what you guys are saying. CyberTrader246 says, again, Bottas is not in a position to help his teammate, just can't qualify high enough. Bottas is just worthless to team strategy. It's been quite a surprise that in the last 2 races, Valtteri, as the F1 intro is now playing, by the way, it's been quite a surprise that Valtteri in the last 2 races has been poor in qualifying, because before Singapore, most of the time Valtteri was right with his teammate Hamilton, if not ahead. So yeah, the last 2 races have been quite poor, but let's wait and see what happens in the final, 5 races after this one. But I don't think we can count Valtteri out for sure. He's had 2 races so far, race weekends in a row that haven't been that great. But again, I don't think we can absolutely count him out just yet. DJ Burp says, Bottas to wipe out both Ferrari and Hamilton to stop for tea and biscuits on his way to an easy win. Gina says, Vettel, Leclerc, Hamilton, Verstappen, Bottas is his prediction. And then says, sorry, I'm late, no problem. I'm definitely a lot later than you. Crystal Racing says, Bottas is the true GOAT. 5 wins in 46 races for Merc. And yet, Slick Silver Singh says, and it is true, in case you guys didn't know, that Alexander Albon is starting from the pit lane. And I'll quickly update that. Nib, what did you think of Albon yesterday in that crash? And where do you think he can finish realistically?
Realistically, I think he'll be aiming to get a point because we've seen all weekend that Albon's pace hasn't been terrific, and I think that he'll struggle to get there. That's for sure. So I think that yesterday with his crash, I think it showed the pressure that he is under at Red Bull, and it's certainly a mistake that he did not need to make. He wasn't under too much pressure to actually put in a super great lap to make it through, but he made the mistake, as we've seen a couple of times. Of course, it is his first season. His 4th race in the car. He doesn't know it too great, but that's still not an excuse. He shouldn't be making those mistakes, and yeah, it was a bit of a shame for Albon, and now he'll be starting the pit lane, of course. And yeah, I think it will be a quite tough race for him.
Yeah, I think it will, because not only with Albon has he not been that quick this weekend in practice, but again, it is hard to overtake here. So the chances of Albon getting to the front of the midfield pack is quite slim, to be honest. Again, the Red Bull car is good. It is a good car, but Albon has been a lot slower than Max Verstappen, and I think a bit slower than what he should be doing in that car. And again, the midfield is quite competitive, and it's, around this track, you can only overtake in one spot, really, maybe 2 at most. The only real overtaking opportunity is turn 2. Yeah, you can go around the outside at turn 3, but realistically, that's not going to happen every time. And then yeah, maybe turn 13, but there's so many awful 90-degree corners before that which put you way behind that yeah, it'll be tough to actually be able to follow and get close enough. So if you can't pass at turn 2 at this track, then you're going to be behind that driver for another lap. So it should make Albon's progress through the field quite interesting if he cannot quickly get through the field. But it is now 90 seconds until, not until the race, but until the formation lap. And I'll get the running order up right now. So this is the grid. I'll let it swing round back to the back round to the start, and I'll quickly get the text ready. The formation lap has not officially started, but it will be in just a moment, as Perez, Giovinazzi and Magnussen are on soft tyres, Kvyat's on hard tyres, and from 14th to 20th, except Kvyat, are on medium tyres. So that is interesting. Let me just put that text there. Yeah, the starting grid: Leclerc, Hamilton, Vettel, Bottas, Sainz, Hülkenberg, Norris, Grosjean, Verstappen, Ricciardo, Perez, Giovinazzi, Magnussen, Stroll, and then Raikkonen, Gasly, Russell, Kubica, Kvyat, and Albon as the clock ticks over now, and the formation lap is underway in Russia. So we'll be underway in a couple minutes time at the Russian Grand Prix.
And I'm going to the toilet.
So right, the nib will be back in just a moment for the race start. And yet there you go, the slideshow is up, and hopefully, let me just check. Yeah, it will be playing one picture every 2 minutes, so that should keep you guys entertained enough. As yet, the formation lap now underway. And Charles Leclerc currently going through turn 4 on that formation lap. And Charles Leclerc going for his 3rd win in the last 4 races. And again, Ferrari going for their 4th consecutive victory. First time, or the last time they did that was back in 2008, where Raikkonen won a couple races, and then Felipe Massa won a couple races. Those races being Malaysia, Bahrain, Spain, and Turkey. Back in 2008, back in the good old days. And can Ferrari replicate that today? Well, we'll have to see. But definitely Mercedes, and I didn't expect this coming into this Grand Prix a month ago, say. They have a big fight on their hands to win. If they're going to win, it's going to take Hungary levels of performance. And it's going to have to be Lewis Hamilton and Mercedes at their absolute best to win this Grand Prix, because Ferrari are on form and they have all around, probably on the same compound and same tyre wear, they probably just about have the quickest car, as the cars on the formation lap are now coming through turn 13, as Daniel Kvyat is just warming his tyres on the run down turn 13. And hopefully, and Albon is still in his garage, so he'll come out onto the end of the pit lane in a few moments' time. As Charles Leclerc and the rest of the pack is now heading to turn 17, the penultimate corner on this formation lap. And he'll be getting to the grid in a moment as they now come into the final corner. And by the way, Charles Leclerc is the first Ferrari driver to take 4 poles in a row since Michael Schumacher back in 2000. So it just shows you how great Charles Leclerc has been as of late, and how great the Ferrari car has been as of late as well. Charles Leclerc just about now lines up on pole position, and Lewis Hamilton lines up alongside him in P2. And I'll get the text ready now. The race has not officially started. It will once we say it has. And of course we'll say, you know, the lights have gone out and all that stuff. So, the cars are now lining up. Only a few cars left to line up. As I believe the Williamses are now lining up, and so is Daniel Kvyat at the back of the grid and Albon at the end of the pit lane. And it's now time for the Russian Grand Prix. It's 2 lights, 3 lights, 4 lights, and 5 lights in Russia. And it's go in Russia. And Charles Leclerc gets a fantastic start. And Sebastian Vettel is already past Lewis Hamilton. And Carlos Sainz has had a great start. Sebastian Vettel going for the lead down to turn 1. And Sebastian Vettel is in the lead of the Russian Grand Prix. Lewis Hamilton is P3. And I believe Carlos Sainz is in P4. The 2 Haas almost colliding off the track there. And Verstappen, I don't know where he is, but Leclerc already going for Sebastian Vettel. But it is Vettel leading. Leclerc is second, Hamilton third. And then
there's a Renault around. There's a Renault around at the back of Daniel Ricciardo. Daniel Ricciardo's off.
Ricciardo off at the back. And Max Verstappen trying to go for a move at turn 7 on Hulkenberg. Is he going to get the move done? Yes, he does. He just about gets it done. Safety car. It's a safety car on lap 1. Wow, what a start that was. So, Sebastian Vettel is in the lead, and Ricciardo has a left rear puncture. If the last couple races haven't gone to plan, well, Grosjean is out. Romain Grosjean is out of the Grand Prix. It might be a front wing failure possibly. That's quite a big crash by the looks of it. So Ricciardo is going to be at the back, and Romain Grosjean is out of the race. Here we go. Here's a replay. And, Ricciardo was hit, I think, by an Alfa nib.
Yeah, it looks like that. It didn't look like there was any contact between Ricciardo and Grosjean there. I'm sure we'll see another replay as Ricciardo is trundling around. It's actually very well done. Ricciardo doesn't seem to actually have any floor damage, as the tyre's actually been quite kind there and is staying on at the moment, as Ricardo can really go as slow as he wants, which he's doing very well here. Because you see that happen very often. The drivers go a little bit too quick when they have a puncture. And then the tire damages the floor as it shreds itself apart. But yeah, I noticed that in the background that there was contact and a Renault went off. But what a awful, awful start by Valtteri Bottas. Carlos Sainz was already past him, well, pretty much straight away. And well, if we're going to say what a start by Sebastian Vettel. Leclerc made a big mistake there by not defending the inside line into turn 2, and that's cost him his position and his lead of the race. He had a good start on Hamilton, and so did Vettel. Vettel had a fantastic start. Leclerc gave up the inside line and made it, well, very, very easy in the end for Sebastian.
Absolutely, and Sebastian in a great position now. Also, great start, Sergio Perez. He's gone from P11 to P7. Great start. Also, great start by Lance Stroll and Kevin Magnussen, who have climbed 3 spots as well. But I'm currently just doing the race order. So, guys, we are on lap 2 out of 53, and we have a safety car. And Nib, I'll let you take us through the start.
Yep, and here we go. We can see the great initial launches of Carlos Sainz and Sebastian Vettel there. And here you go. See, Charles Leclerc's fallen asleep there. He's just defended absolutely nothing. Let Vettel go down the inside as Carlos Sainz just slots in behind. And you can see already there a little bit of contact between a racing point and Daniel Ricciardo further back here. But here we go. On board with Sebastian Vettel. Gets a very, very good start. Much better than Lewis Hamilton. And Leclerc here just falls asleep, doesn't defend the inside line. And I think by the time he realizes it's too late, Vettel cleaned down the inside. And we've seen that was a Bottas who went from third to first a couple of years ago. Third seems to be a very good starting position here at Sochi. And on board, yeah, Hamilton's had a very bad start there. Well, not very bad, just a bad start. And yeah, Vettel clean past him. Carlos Sainz around the outside, but Sainz, sorry, just braked a little bit later. Hamilton clean through on the inside. And of course, Carlos Sainz is still ahead. And here we go. On board with Kimi Räikkönen, who's had a jump start.
Oh, dearie
dear,
me.
Kimi. That is a big, big jump start by Kimi Räikkönen. Oh, dear, what's going on there with the Kimster? As we're now seeing Lance Stroll on board as he's got his teammate to the left. And there you go, a little bit of contact with him and also Ricciardo, as I was just mentioning it before. And, oh, that's contact with Hulkenberg and Perez as well, I believe. So contact absolutely everywhere so far. And are we finally going to see a replay of the contact between Grosjean and well, whoever else it was? And here we go. Oh, yes, Antonio Giovinazzi decides to make it 3 wide. Nowhere to go for Romain Grosjean and Daniel Ricciardo. And both drivers with just spinning out of that corner. And here we go. We're going to have an off-board shot now. I don't think Grosjean knows that there's going to be 2 cars going down the inside. And Grosjean and Ricciardo do a synchronized spin and Grosjean off into the barrier. And Ricciardo also goes spinning around a bit. Very lucky not to go in the barrier himself.
I have to say, I think Antonio's very unlucky there because he went down the middle and both cars, obviously, they can't quite see very well in the first lap when, everything's going off. But I don't think he could have really done anything because I think both drivers couldn't quite see him and, he couldn't really go anywhere from where he was. So I think you have to say that's a racing incident. I don't really think any of the drivers could have done anything different in that incident. But on lap 3 out of 53, we are currently under a safety car. It is ending at the end of this lap, so I'll quickly read out the order. It's Vettel leading from Leclerc second, Hamilton is third, Carlos Sainz is fourth, Valtteri Bottas is fifth, Lando Norris is sixth, Sergio Perez is P7, Max Verstappen is P8, Nico Hulkenberg is P9, P10 is Kevin Magnussen, P11 is Stroll, P12 Gasly, 13th Kvyat, 14th Raikkonen, 15th Russell, and then Albon, Kubica, Giovinazzi, Ricciardo, and Grosjean is out of the race. I've just got to update some of the order, but Sebastian Vettel, of course, very good at leading the pack away after a safety car period. So I would be shocked if his teammate Charles Leclerc got a run on him, to be honest, and got past down into turn 2. As Lewis Hamilton, of course, on the medium tyres right behind, and as Sebastian Vettel now lets go of it, Lewis is going to struggle for tyre warm-up, and we're seeing that as Carlos Sainz warming his tyres very aggressively right behind Lewis Hamilton, and the race is back underway as they now begin lap 4 out of 53, and it is Vettel leading already by 0.8 of a second from teammate Charles Leclerc and Hamilton and Sainz, and then Bottas and Norris. Norris got a bit of a run, and Sainz has got a bit of a run on Hamilton. Is Norris going for a Bottas? No, he is not. Overtaking in the background, Magnussen down the inside of Hulkenberg. Great move by Kevin Magnussen in the Haas. And let me just redo the order. As Max Verstappen down the inside. No, he's not going to go for it.
Good defending there by Perez to spot the move.
Absolutely. And there's overtaking in the background. Giovinazzi has passed Robert. Kubica Albon has just passed Russell. So Albon up to 15th. And yeah, Giovinazzi up to 17th. Shame for Giovinazzi. He was looking pretty good in the Alpha. But yeah, let me just put Magnussen into P9. And obviously the Ferrari power helping a lot for K-Mag to get past down to turn 2. As Max Verstappen trying to close on Sergio Perez down to turn 13. Will he go for a move? No, he's too far behind. But he should be getting past, to be honest, at the end or the beginning of lap 5. So expect that to happen pretty soon. And here come the Ferraris, and they are definitely in a comfortable position at the moment. Carlos Sainz, by the way, not doing that bad. I know Valtteri's on medium tyres, but he's a second ahead at the moment. And Sebastian Vettel does a new fastest lap of 1:39.7, which is very quick, to be honest, for the 4th lap of the Grand Prix. And yeah, Verstappen not close enough to get anywhere near Sergio Perez, who Perez looks closer to Norris than Verstappen does to Perez. Is there any overtaking in the background? I don't think so at the moment, so the order is now settled. But the action to look out for at the moment is Verstappen and Perez over P7. Of course, Perez in Monza brilliantly held off Max Verstappen, and it is easier to pass at Monza, so this is going to be tough for Max Verstappen to get past Sergio Perez. And look at that, the Ferrari's already really streaking away at the front of the field. And now we have a bit of a train, a 3-car, maybe a 4 or 5-car train soon behind Lando Norris in the McLaren as they come through turn 10. And DRS not yet enabled. It should be enabled, I think, at the start of the next lap, possibly, as Max Verstappen getting another run on Perez down to turn 13. But again, nowhere near close enough to actually go for a move. And Bottas also not really closing in, as Kvyat and Raikkonen are side by side, but we're not seeing it, unfortunately. Kvyat was passed by Raikkonen, but Kvyat got back past, as Max Verstappen still cannot get really close enough, as Sebastian Vettel does another new fastest lap on lap 6 out of 53, a 1:39.5. As the Ferraris comfortably lead the pack away. And Nib, I know Valtteri's on the medium, but Carlos Sainz is doing very well. He's about, 0.8 ahead still of Valtteri Bottas.
Yeah, well, I think that we're seeing that that those on the soft compound tires, as Kimi Räikkönen is under investigation. Well, I don't think there is much an investigation needed. He definitely had a jump start compared to everyone else. But I think we can see here that those running on the soft tyres are having a very good start here after the safety car period. That the tyre warm up has helped them very much, and we see at Russia that there isn't much tyre wear, and that's because the tyres actually don't get tested too much around this circuit. So that's why I think that those on the soft compound tyres have had a better safety car restart than those ahead, as Bottas now on this lap is actually starting to close down, as we're hearing some team radio from Vettel and Leclerc. Obviously, we can't hear it. So if those in the chat can say or put in what they're actually saying, that would be great. But Vettel already has a 4-second lead over Lewis Hamilton a couple of laps after the safety car restart. It's all looking, at the moment, very well for them.
Absolutely. And by the way, I've just noticed Nico Hulkenberg has repassed Kevin Magnussen, and I think K-Mag has hit the cliff because he's already about 2 seconds behind Hulkenberg, and Stroll is now all over the back of Magnussen. So, yep, Haas are struggling now. As, Bottas now closing in on Carlos Sainz as Sebastian Vettel does another new fastest lap, a 1:39.3 as Valtteri now gets DRS down to turn 2. And now Valtteri gets right in the slipstream when he go down the inside, and yep, he does. Valtteri Bottas is up to P4 in the Mercedes, and that was always going to happen. He is on...
As Chaz, very important news. Leclerc has been told that Sebastian Vettel will let him through next lap.
That is very, very weird. I don't really understand why they're going to do that. They don't need to do that. Again, the drivers are not competing for a World Drivers' Championship. I don't really see why they should do that. I think, honestly, they should just focus at the moment on building a gap to the rest of the field. But there you go.
Well, I mentioned that it seemed very odd that Verstappen did not defend. Sorry, not Verstappen. Leclerc did not defend at turn 2. So I think that might have been perhaps the reason to allow Vettel and Ferrari to secure that 1-2, and then to let Leclerc get the lead. That I know there must have been some pre-race discussions, and Vettel has seemingly agreed with it, although he hasn't obviously let him through yet. So this is certainly going to be very interesting.
Yeah, I was actually going to...
We've seen Seb not follow some team orders before.
Yes, we have. I was actually going to say at the start, maybe the reason Charles Leclerc didn't defend, I was thinking maybe it was a tactical reason, because surely if you're in the lead going down to turn 2, you would defend your position a lot more. But yeah, it did seem a bit weird that he didn't defend. Maybe that was the plan all along. But Max Verstappen there in the background closing on Perez, but not close enough. And really, Verstappen struggling to get through this pack as he closes on Perez now through turn 3. But he's really struggling to get through. He's not overtook anyone.
You'll have a look here at turn 4. You'll have a look here.
And he goes all right round the outside at turn 3 into 4. And Max Verstappen just about gets the overtake done. Perez will try to come back, but he will not get the move done. Nope, so Verstappen up to P7. Just as I said.
Just as you're saying that, that he was very close going through turn 3. And at the moment, seemingly, Sebastian Vettel is not letting Charles Leclerc through. So I'm quickly refreshing Twitter to see what on earth is going on.
To be honest, I'm not sure that radio call is correct, unless that was the plan all along, to try and get Vettel into the lead and then try and get a 1-2 so they could then run away with it a bit. But I just don't, as we've seen a replay of Verstappen going down the inside at turn 4, not that spectacular. But I don't really see the point in doing that at the moment. Lewis Hamilton, though, is closing on Charles Leclerc quite a bit now, so the medium tyres really now starting to come into their own.
No, it's not. It's the interval gap. They've changed it over to the interval gap. Hamilton has not closed in at all, but Leclerc said on team radio, you put me behind, I respected everything, we'll speak later, but now it's difficult to close the gap, obviously. So from that team radio, it seems as if it was pre-arranged for Leclerc not to defend at turn 2 and let Vettel go into the lead to get that to secure the 1-2.
Well, who knows? If Leclerc did defend, Vettel might have got him into turn 2. Who knows? But at the moment, I don't really see the need for them to swap positions. As yet, Kimi Raikkonen has a drive-through penalty, and I have to say that jump start by Kimi was quite embarrassing. Here's a replay. So 5 lights come on, and he jumps to start about 4 seconds before the lights goes out. That is quite embarrassing. I know he's 39, but that is a very old man mistake. Yeah. well, since the summer break, Kimi might as well have not turned up because he's not done anything since the summer break, as Sebastian Vettel is actually pulling away from Charles Leclerc. He's almost got the gap to 2 seconds. We're on lap 9, by the way, at a 53. The closest gaps at the moment is Hülkenberg to Perez for P8, and Raikkonen, Kvyat and Albon are fighting very hard, and Gasly and Stroll as well, all over P11, as Sebastian Vettel is doing repeatedly fastest sectors and fastest laps, as he does another fastest lap to Sebastian Vettel at 39.0, and that is pretty quick on lap 10 out of 53, considering they're on, heavy fuel and they're on worn tyres that will obviously used in qualifying. As Leclerc is second, 1.8 seconds behind, now 2 seconds behind. Lewis Hamilton is P3. Valtteri Bottas is P4. And then it's Carlos Sainz P5. Lando Norris in 6th, as Albon has passed Raikkonen somewhere. And Raikkonen's come into the pit lane, that's what it was. Lando Norris is 6th. Max Verstappen is 7th. Then it's Perez, Hülkenberg and Magnussen completing the top 10 for now. And I'll just quickly update the order now that Kimi Raikkonen has pitted on lap 10 for that drive-through penalty. So Albon is up to 14th. Russell is in 15th at the moment. Daniel Ricciardo, after his pit stop for the puncture, has got to 16th place. So Ricciardo not looking too bad considering what happened earlier on. Giovinazzi is 17th. Alpha have had an absolute mare today.
Okay.
Just
to interrupt, as Vettel obviously set the fastest lap, he's been told he's doing a good job, and now Leclerc's been told that they will do the swap later on, as Hamilton is a bit too close.
Okay, so team orders going on at Ferrari. Do they need to happen? I'm not quite sure, but we'll probably talk about it after the Grand Prix. But at the moment, Ferrari don't need to swap positions around because they're busy at the moment building a gap. And they're in a very, very comfortable position. And I have to say, those medium tyres are not working for Lewis Hamilton or Valtteri Bottas. They're way too slow. Valtteri is at least a second a lap slower than Sebastian Vettel. And Lewis Hamilton, since the safety car restart, has been at best half a second a lap slower, if not 3/4 of a second a lap slower. So the medium compound not working, even though we're 11 laps into the race, as Max Verstappen closes in on Norris, Hülkenberg closing in on Perez. Perez actually not doing that bad, because even though Verstappen has got past, I know Verstappen is being held up, but Perez not too far behind still. As Verstappen and Norris, of course, battling over 6th place. Carlos Sainz clearly in P5. And just looking at the field to see that it is absolutely correct on the running order, and it is. Kevin Magnussen is really struggling on the soft tyres. He's 5 seconds behind Hülkenberg and has a train behind him of Stroll, Gasly, Kvyat and Albon. And it will soon be Ricciardo once Ricciardo gets past Russell. As we're currently looking at the TV, Verstappen and Norris, and then Perez and Hülkenberg. Perez looks as though he's pulling out a bit, as Sebastian Vettel continues to pull away. And he comes up on screen now, thankfully. He's now 2.6 seconds clear and does another new fastest lap, a 1:38.8. This is exactly what Ferrari in this race need to do if they're going to win. They've got to pull the gap as much as possible before the first round of pit stops. Now that we've had a safety car, I reckon the soft tyre runners could probably get to lap 20 at this rate. So the medium tyres for Hamilton and Bottas, they've got to hope that they start coming in a lot more later on. As Verstappen, is he going to be close enough to Norris down to turn 2? I don't think so. Or is he? Verstappen down the inside? No, Norris just lets him through. So Max Verstappen up to 6th, and clearly Lando Norris letting Max go there. Of course, good friends. And that is what has happened. So Max is up to 6th and now has to go hunting after ex-teammate at Toro Rosso, Carlos Sainz, who is so far ahead of his teammate after only 12 laps, considering that, they're very close normally. As at the moment, the order has really settled down, and there's not really that many overtakes going on at the moment. Nib, for Mercedes, what is the plan, do you think, now, considering the relentless pace of Ferrari?
Well, they just need to go as quick as they possibly can at the moment. They need to make sure that this gap doesn't get too big and hope that later on in the stint and later on the races, we're watching Hulkenberg close up to Perez there as Sebastian Vettel sets another fastest lap. Is this the French Grand Prix or something? When said it was Lewis Hamilton doing this, but now it's Sebastian Vettel. Sebastian Vettel now has a 3.2-second gap to Charles Leclerc and is certainly making sure that Ferrari have no option in swapping the two drivers around. But one thing for sure is that, as I was saying, Mercedes need to just make sure they can go as quickly as they can. And Hamilton is 3.5 seconds behind Charles Leclerc, which isn't too far behind. And if he can maintain that sort of gap as we head towards the pit window, certainly for Ferrari, that'll be good. But then, of course, Ferrari going to go on fresher tyres and should then pull the gap, should pull a further gap to Hamilton and close up to the back of them. So I don't know. I don't think that this strategy is really working out for Mercedes.
Yeah, it's not quite playing out how they would have hoped. They would have been hoping that around now, Lewis would be going faster than the two Ferrari cars. But it's not happening. Sebastian Vettel, lap after lap, is doing a new fastest lap. So now on lap 13 out of 53. And Ferrari have a clear dominant lead. Sebastian Vettel is about, 7 seconds clear of Lewis Hamilton? So not really quick enough or good enough at the moment from the Mercedes team. And Valtteri Bottas, as I said earlier, is miles off the pace. He is, again, at least a second a lap slower than Sebastian Vettel, as Vettel does another fastest lap. A 38.5 that time. That was 0.3 quicker, I think, than the previous one. He is on fire today. And he's pulling away from his teammate Charles Leclerc by about 0.3 of a second.
Just bringing a little update from about 5 minutes ago of one of Charles Leclerc's last team radios that was broadcasted was, I completely understand. The only thing is that I respected. I gave the slipstream no problems, but then I tried to push at the beginning of the race, but it's no problems. Manage the situation. So, of course, in my voice, you probably can't understand the anger, but Charles Leclerc seemingly is absolutely furious and I can understand why, if there was pre-arranged team orders for then Leclerc to let um Leclerc through, but certainly if there wasn't any pre-arranged team orders or anything like that, then I don't really understand his anger. But I assume the only reason why Leclerc is so furious is because there was pre-arranged team orders.
If there was an agreement before the race and Sebastian Vettel does not let Charles Leclerc through, then Charles Leclerc is being screwed over here. But we are on lap 14 out of 53. There's a long way to go. And I think the smarter thing to do would be to build a gap to Lewis Hamilton and Valtteri Bottas and then worry about swapping drivers over later on, because they can, if they let Charles Leclerc through now, considering that Sebastian Vettel is going a lot faster, about 0.3 of a second a lap, and he does another fastest lap. As Hulkenberg goes to move on.
Time.
Exact same lap time. Hulkenberg on Perez. Great move. Round the outside. Locks up a bit. And no, Lewis Hamilton now does the fastest lap. Goes 1,000th of a second quicker. Does Lewis Hamilton. So there you go. Lewis now coming alive a bit. As great move by Hulkenberg there. And he was clearly quicker than Perez. But at the moment, again, considering that Sebastian is clearly faster than Charles Leclerc, as we're seeing a replay of Hulkenberg around the outside at turn 13, and that was simple enough. If Vettel is faster, then if Leclerc, is ahead and slower, then that's just going to allow Lewis Hamilton to close up. So, just need to make sure, to Ferrari, I think, to just build the gap at the moment.
Well, one thing's for sure, they ain't going to be doing any swap around anytime soon, with the gap being nearly 4 seconds between the two. But I think if that gap were to close up and Hamilton was a non-factor that they would then let them swap. But who knows? Vettel seems extremely determined to make sure that Leclerc does not win this race today. And just a little update on Daniel Ricciardo. A tweet here from Renault F1 team saying Daniel struggling after the impact. There's more damage to his car than initially suspected. Loss of downforce and balance too. And that explains why he is still behind George Russell in P16.
Yep, he is. As Kimi Raikkonen is now coming through the field. He's just passed Robert Kubica, so Kimi is no longer last. Lewis Hamilton, though, is now starting to at least match Charles Leclerc's pace, if not go faster. Saying that, Charles Leclerc does the fastest lap. What does Lewis Hamilton do? He goes even faster, so there you go. So Lewis Hamilton now starting to come alive. 138.319 for Lewis Hamilton. So the medium tyres, finally, on about lap 15, lap 16 out of 53, are starting to work. But you have to say, it's took about 5 laps too long for that to start working for them, as Max Verstappen is now closing in on Carlos Sainz, but is nowhere near close enough on this lap going down to turn 2 to even think about going for the overtake. But yeah, Kimi Raikkonen is up to 18th. By the way, Ricciardo obviously started on soft tyres. He's now on mediums. Giovinazzi started on mediums. Oh no, started on soft compound tyres. He's now on the hard compound. So Giovinazzi is probably going to try and go to the end of the Grand Prix. Not sure if that'll work, but we'll see later on. As, yeah, we're just seeing Max Verstappen closing up to Carlos Sainz. And, yeah, we are currently on lap 16 out of 53. As Sebastian Vettel is 3.8 seconds clear of Charles Leclerc, and another team radio for Charles Leclerc, where I'm sure he's still venting his frustration. And you have to say again, if Charles Leclerc, if there wasn't an agreement before the race, as Vettel does the fastest lap, and I think he'll keep that, a 38.2 for Vettel, very good lap there. We'll see what Lewis Hamilton does in a moment. But if there was an agreement, and it is, say, broken during the race, then that is not right. But we don't know what they've agreed before the race. Maybe Charles Leclerc did defend poorly. Who knows? As Verstappen now into the final corner looks about a couple tenths closer to Carlos Sainz than he was before. And we've now cut to... Nico Hülkenberg has pitted. That's why they've cut to this shot of the final corner. And there you go. So Hülkenberg is in the pits. What tyres will he go on to? It will be surely medium compound. Oh, problem. They haven't got the jack up. The car's gone down and they haven't got the tyre on. That's a big, big error for Renault. And that might cost them later on. So Hülkenberg has pitted. But that mistake, which cost them about 3 or 4 seconds, that could be very costly later on. So Perez now up to 8th. Hülkenberg, interestingly, went on the medium compound. Not too sure that's going to work out if tyre wear is worse later on.
And that is a massive mistake, as Hülkenberg really was much quicker than the McLarens. Of course, further behind them, but Hülkenberg's fastest lap was about a half a second quicker than McLaren's. So they were hoping to jump the McLarens and potentially even Verstappen with that early pit stop. But the front jack falling off the car, on letting the car drop, I should say, is massively hurt them. And now he's about 5 seconds behind Antonio Giovinazzi, so he's still got some clean air there, as we're seeing a replay about 15 laps later of Verstappen passing Sainz. Of course, we did see it live at the moment. But yeah, Hülkenberg still has some clean air, so he still might be able to get ahead of Sainz and Norris and Verstappen if they don't pit, but it'll be close.
Yeah, it will be, but Hülkenberg's race is definitely more so compromised. And Hülkenberg has to get past Giovinazzi because, again, I think Antonio is going to the end of the Grand Prix. Good news for Ferrari, though, is that now on lap 18 out of 53, they have enough of a gap to drop back into, clearly, between Bottas and Verstappen. So If they want to drop into a nice clean gap, they can do that, and maybe that's the way they get Leclerc ahead of Vettel, who knows. As we're seeing a replay of Albon on Kvyat, and Kvyat doesn't really defend, and Kvyat is on actually hard compound tyres, and Albon goes round the outside down to turn 13. But yeah, Hülkenberg is in 17th place at the moment. And by the way, the pit lane here is very long, so it takes about 25 seconds to half a minute to pit. So yeah, Ferrari do have a gap to drop into between Bottas and Verstappen if they want to do so. But Max Verstappen is also nearly a pit stop behind. Nearly a pit stop behind Valtteri Bottas. He's 19 seconds behind, but he is actually now catching Valtteri, who I have to say, Valtteri is so slow. Valtteri at the moment, and he now comes up on screen, thankfully, he is 17.2 seconds off the lead, and that is quite embarrassing, to be fair. His pace has picked up, though, in the last 2 or 3 laps. He's not losing as much time to the leaders as he was, but still, the pace is not good. Here is a replay of Hülkenberg, and the front jack failed. And they had to get it back up again so they could get the front left tyre on the car. And that definitely cost them about 4 seconds at least, maybe even 5. As now we're seeing Albon on Gasly down to turn 2. Will Albon get the move done? Down the inside? No, nowhere near. Gasly, though, I think saw him at the last moment and made a little mistake there. But Gasly is still in P11 and Albon P12. Albon not really coming through this field quick enough on that compound of tyre. Now that compound of tyre is probably the best compound to be on at the moment. As Albon and Kvyat now go through. Not Albon and Kvyat. Gasly and Albon now go through turn 6 and now turn 7. I'm sure Albon is complaining that he can't get through the field quick enough. As we are now on lap 20 out of 53. And Sebastian Vettel is leading by 4.1 seconds from Charles Leclerc. And I think now is a good time actually for Ferrari to pit, because I think those soft compound tyres have probably had enough. And I think it'd be pretty good now to go onto the medium, to be honest, because the tyre wear looks to be actually better than I was expecting. As Albon now really closing up to Pierre Gasly through turn 15 and turn 16. Can he get a move done? Down to turn 2 soon. We'll have to see. As they come through the final 2 corners. I'll let you have it, Nib.
Yeah, I'm not too sure if Hamilton, that team radio, Hamilton here was just saying this, but Hamilton was told that he can go target plus 15. So Mercedes looking to go very long in this first stint and then to have a very strong last stint here as Alexander Albon is closing down on the Toro Rosso, but not close enough this time around, much like last time. But I don't think Ferrari need to pit yet. They're still maintaining the gap to Mercedes, so as long as they're maintaining it, I don't think they should pit, as Vettel is extending his gap to Leclerc now to 4.3 seconds. They're still maintaining their gap, so I don't think there's really any reason for Ferrari to pit at the moment.
Yep, that's a good point. As long as they can maintain that gap, then they should be fine. I'm just looking at the gaps. Again, there is still a very good gap to drop into if they want to, but as you say, Lewis Hamilton not really catching quick enough for them to, go for the pit stop. But be interesting to see what happens at Ferrari when it comes to who wins the Grand Prix. Will it be Leclerc or Vettel? We'll have to see later on. I'd have to say at the moment, I think it will be Vettel, because he's clearly faster, and I don't see why Ferrari should swap him round. Unless, again, there was an arrangement before the race. As Hülkenberg replay round the outside of Giovinazzi at turn 2. Goes off the track, though. And Giovinazzi then goes miles off the track as Lando Norris pits in the McLaren from what was P7. And what tyres will he go on to? It will be medium tyres. So, yeah, the tyre wear today not as bad as I was thinking. the hard compound doesn't seem to be that good of a tyre at the moment. As Lando will come out the pit lane, and he should come out ahead of Russell and Ricciardo. And yes, he does. So that's good for him, because now he has a very, very good gap. And Ricciardo in a moment is going to have to let his teammate through. Because, of course, Hulkenberg is the only one realistically who can finish in the points unless something mental happens. In the next 21 laps, as Sebastian Vettel now starts lap 22 out of 53. But with Norris pitting, as Sebastian is actually about to lap someone. I think that might be... Is that Williams or an Alpha? I think it's a Williams.
Looks like a Williams.
Yep, it is Robert Kubica. So that's how quick the Ferrari cars are, as Hulkenberg has now been let through by Ricciardo. But it is Perez now up to P7. Magnussen is P8 because of Norris's pit stop. Stroll is up to P9. And Gasly is now P10 in the Toro Rosso. Gasly looking quite good at the moment as Carlos Sainz is pitting. Let's see what Carlos Sainz does and where he comes out. Very strong opening stint. He was clearly ahead of the rest of the midfield. And he will now come into his pit box, and he should come out behind the Albon Kvyat Gasly fight and clearly ahead of Norris, and puts on the medium tyres. And out comes Carlos Sainz. Where will he come out? And yet Gasly, Albon and Kvyat go through. So he'll come out in P12, I believe. Or will he come out in P11? No, Kvyat has gone through. So Carlos Sainz is pitted. So Perez is up to 6th now. Good thing though for Perez is that, you know, he was on a fresher compound, fresher soft tyres. Ferrari are coming out into the pit lane with medium compound tyres, and it is not for Sebastian Vettel. It is for Charles Leclerc. So maybe that is the way they are going to get Leclerc ahead of Vettel in a similar way to Singapore through an undercut.
Well, as you can see, Hamilton's really been gaining on Leclerc the last couple of laps, as Leclerc's even fallen behind further to Sebastian Vettel, and it looks like a fairly clean pit stop there from Ferrari. Indeed, 2.5 second pit stop there. But you've seen Hamilton close the gap to about 1.5 seconds there just on that lap. So Leclerc seemed to be struggling with his tyres, and now he's going to have those fresh, brand spanking new set of medium tyres, as Paul di Resta would say. And yeah, now Hamilton is going to have to do a good job to make sure that who knows? Well, he just needs to push now with as much as he can, and perhaps Bottas actually might be used if Leclerc catches up to the back of Bottas.
Yeah, that might be a tactic to use. Leclerc is, though, 10.5 seconds behind as Hamilton laps Robert Kubica. But it's going to take quite something for Leclerc to catch that gap before Valtteri needs a pit stop. But I'm just going to do the order now. So, yeah, Sainz is pitted and come out in P12. Charles Leclerc is pitted and come out P4. The two McLarens are 12th and 13th, but again, they both have pitted. Hulkenberg is 14th and about 5 seconds behind. Lando Norris, Lewis Hamilton coming through turn 15 and turn 16 now on the medium compound tyres. And he will continue on for quite a bit. Lewis, though, is now starting, I think, to catch Vettel a bit. It's not, the gap is a bit smaller now than it was before. I think it was 7 seconds a few laps ago. And now it looks to be about 6.2 as we now start lap 24 out of 53. And Vettel still leading this Grand Prix. And I think the hope at Ferrari is Leclerc will do enough to undercut Vettel, and then Vettel will then pit once that undercut has clearly been achieved for Ferrari. That'd be the easiest way to do it, I think. Russell is still 15th. I know Ricciardo has damaged, but still, that's a good drive by Russell so far. Ricciardo is 16th, and then Antonio Giovinazzi in 17th, and then Raikkonen, Kubica, and of course, the last retirement, or the only retirement, was Romain Grosjean. As Sergio Perez is in the pits. So let me just update that. So Kevin Magnussen will now go up to 6th place. And Perez should come out in P... 13 between Norris and Hulkenberg. And Perez has a not great pit stop. 3.2, not too bad. So yeah, that puts Magnussen up to 6th. Lance Stroll is P7. And that's Gasly and Albon down at turn 2. And Gasly very well holds off Alexander Albon. But can Albon get a run through turn 3? Going to go down the inside for this one. Will that work? Or Gasly right round the outside. Can he hold it, Gasly? Yes, he does. No, he doesn't. Albon goes right round the outside. Great move by Alexander Albon. And he is now up to 8th place. Of course, that's because Sainz, Norris, Perez and Hulkenberg have pitted. But and now we're seeing a replay of it. Very brave to go down the inside at turn 3. Gasly tried to hold it around the outside, but Albon had the grip, had the line, and simply just carried it right round the outside. Didn't extend the track. And Ferrari look as though Charles Leclerc does a new fastest lap, I believe. Ferrari look as though they're about to bring Vettel in a moment, as
Sebastian's complaining that his rears are falling off.
well, you'd have to say, and Daniel Kvyat has passed Pierre Gasly. Gasly really struggling now. Kvyat up to 9th. Vettel is being now caught by Lewis Hamilton. Yeah, Carlos Sainz all over the back of Gasly. Will Gasly pit? No, Gasly will defend his position. But Sainz is in 12th. Then, yeah, Perez has come out in 13th place. And now Daniel Kvyat is up to 9th. But I'm going to put Carlos Sainz basically now in P10 because he's about to pass Pierre Gasly down to turn 2. And, yeah, so simple. And Carlos Sainz is up to 10th position. Gasly now starting to struggle on the medium compound that he started the race on, as Daniel Ricciardo has come into the pits. Lewis Hamilton
I wouldn't be surprised if Ricciardo retires from this race.
Yeah, that might be a possibility because there's nothing they're going to really achieve by staying out, to be honest. Lewis Hamilton, I've seen a replay of Kvyat passing Gasly. Let's see, and I think Gasly let him through here. Yep, he did, basically. Lewis Hamilton is continuing to catch Sebastian Vettel. The gap now down to 5 seconds as we're now about halfway through the 2019 Russian Grand Prix. And yet the gap is about 5.1 seconds. And yeah, I think, Nib, you're right. Ricciardo has retired because he's still in the pits. Yep, there you go. Daniel Ricciardo out of the Russian Grand Prix, and he'll be hoping that this Grand Prix is off the calendar very, very soon. As Charles Leclerc does a 1:37.3, the new fastest lap of the race. That's a very good time. And look,
Chaz, I tell you exactly what's happening here. Vettel's being left out here to make sure that Leclerc jumps Vettel.
Yep, that is absolutely the plan. And you have to say that is the easiest way to do it without having any troubles on track. And if Vettel stays out, no, he's going to come in. Going to come in. So Leclerc, I think Leclerc will just about get Sebastian Vettel. And that should be enough as Vettel pits. I'm just trying to update the order. But, of course, Daniel Ricciardo is out, and in comes Sebastian Vettel to put on medium compound tyres. And that was not the greatest pit stop, but it was still quick enough. And he should come out behind his teammate Charles Leclerc as he now trundles out the pit lane. It is going to be close for sure. And no, there you go. Leclerc is clearly ahead as Leclerc did another fastest lap. This time it was a 1:37, well, 3 again. So Charles Leclerc has jumped teammate Sebastian Vettel in what is, I guess, team orders. And yeah, Ferrari now net 1 and 2 in this Grand Prix, I believe. So that is great for them. And yet Ricciardo 19th are now out of the Grand Prix. But now 1 and 2 are Hamilton and Bottas. And, well, you might be right, Nib. They might use Valtteri to actually back Charles Leclerc up because Charles is now only 6 seconds behind, and he did pit about 4 or 5 laps ago, so that might be something that happens very soon. But at the moment, it is a net Ferrari 1-2, even though they are 3rd and 4th. The two Mercedes have not pitted as Pierre Gasly comes into the pits. And Gasly, I think, will come out ahead of Russell. He should do. I know he's going to come out behind Russell, Giovinazzi and Raikkonen. So he'll come out ahead of Robert Kubica. Oh, what's happened? Sebastian Vettel slowing down. Sebastian Vettel's out of the race. He's out. Sebastian Vettel has parked his car and he's out of the Russian Grand Prix. What a disaster. What has happened normally? That can happen normally. The first lap out of the pits, you can have your car break. But Sebastian Vettel is out. That is a massive shame for Ferrari. Oh, that is very bad. That was probably going to be a 1-2 finish today. And they've just lost it. And now got a virtual safety car.
Oh, that's perfect for Mercedes. Oh, boy.
That is absolutely perfect. Because Hamilton has about a 20-second gap almost. Oh, they couldn't have hoped. And if the virtual safety car stays out long enough for Hamilton to get round to the pits, which I think he will, then that is possibly a race-winning thing for Lewis Hamilton. As Magnussen and Stroll are pitting, this is a crucial part of the Grand Prix.
But of course, it depends where they are on circuit, as you've mentioned. And it looks like they're somewhere in the middle part of the track. I don't quite have the track map in front of me, but it's so crucial that that Mercedes are able to get around to the pits in time.
I think they will, though, because I don't think that Ferrari will be cleared away quick enough. And Stroll and Magnussen, as Sebastian Vettel angrily walks away, Stroll and Magnussen are pitted, and Magnussen has jumped Norris and Perez. And here comes Lewis Hamilton. Lewis Hamilton in the pits. And this, I think, and so is Kimi Raikkonen, I think this is the race-winning possible move. And he puts on what tyres? Soft compound tyres. And he should be able to just about get away with that. As Lewis Hamilton and Valtteri Bottas in as well. Valtteri, though, should come out in 3rd place because Charles Leclerc was not that far behind him. And Valtteri puts on soft compound tyres. We need to see, director, where is Lewis Hamilton?
Well, you can see on the track map that Hamilton is miles out ahead of Charles Leclerc.
Lewis Hamilton, after you have to say, a very fortunate virtual safety car, has overtook Charles Leclerc in the pits, and Lewis Hamilton leads the Russian Grand Prix with about 24 laps to go. That is exactly what they needed. And you have to say, Ferrari's reliability issue as the virtual safety car is now finishing, as Max Verstappen now pits and has a 40-second lead to Albon. And the track is now green flag. You have to say that Ferrari's reliability issue has basically, at the moment, unless Charles Leclerc can really get after Hamilton, Ferrari's reliability issue has won. Oh, Williams off!
The wall.
Russell in the wall. That might be a safety car that could close things up right away again.
That is absolutely a safety car. It's in a dangerous part of the track.
That is at turn 8. I think that might be a safety car. That looks as though to me Russell's either had a front wing failure or a brake failure. Let's see. Oh, that looks to me a brake failure. Yeah, that's a brake failure, I think. And he goes into the barriers at turn 8. And that might be a safety car. Yellow flag in sector 2. No safety car is confirmed at the moment. I'm trying to redo the order because it's all over the place now.
Has to be a safety car. And there we are. He's stuck in the Tech Pro barrier as Ferrari are now readying some tyres for Charles Leclerc.
And surely they're going to go back to the soft compound tyre.
Yeah,
because
they have to here.
If they're going to win, that's the only way it's going to happen. And I have to say, that safety car has really, really now made for a great, now, what we're going to have, last 20 laps of this Grand Prix. So, let me now do the order.
Leclerc stayed out. Leclerc has stayed out.
Oh, that is. I'm not sure about that, but well, he might have come out behind Bottas.
I don't think he would have. I think he would have had the gap on Bottas. Was it 15 seconds?
Yeah, he might have had it
Under
actually.
any safety car conditions. As we're watching on board here with Vettel, and yet, well, I can't hear obviously the audio, but obviously he's had just a sudden loss of power, I should say, and he's pulled over there where he should, where the orange markings are, but it's not like a clear open gateway, so they can get the car in fast enough, and that, of course, caused a virtual safety car, which has led to Lewis Hamilton now being in the lead of the Russian Grand Prix ahead of Charles Leclerc.
Who would have thought that Lewis Hamilton would be leading? Honestly, who would have thought that after the first 20 odd laps where Ferrari was so quick, and now Hamilton is in the lead on fresher tyres and softer tyres. Those tyres, though, will possibly go away quicker. But as we saw earlier, Ferrari were very quick on those tyres, and Mercedes are normally better on their tyres as Kubica now retires. So we've now got 5 retirements. This is unusual for the Russian Grand Prix. As that's Albon, isn't it? Yeah, that's Albon.
Yep, Albon.
And he's now pitted for the soft compound tyre. So Carlos Sainz up to P5. By the way, with Albon not being that quick and Vettel now out, that this is a great opportunity for the midfield to get some big points as Hulkenberg comes in for soft compound tyres. It's all going off now, isn't it? We've had about 5 million pit stops in the last 2 laps as Carlos Sainz is now up to P5 because Albon is pitted.
So I think about the only driver on track that actually isn't on the soft compound tyres is, surprise, surprise, Charles Leclerc.
Yeah, and I think they missed an opportunity there because if he could have pitted and come out ahead of Valtteri Bottas, then I think a mistake has been made, to be honest. So right, let me now do the order. So we have a safety car right now, if you're just joining us. Lap 30 out of 53, and the order is Lewis Hamilton leading, from Charles Leclerc second, and
Leclerc pits, and now he's going to absolutely come out behind Bottas. Bottas is right there.
What are they doing? Why didn't they pit the lap before where they would have had a better chance of coming out ahead? That is a cataclysmic error, and he will now come on soft tyres, and he should be fine ahead of Verstappen because Verstappen has been miles behind today. So he'll come out in P3.
Verstappen's through 14.
Yeah. But why didn't they pit a lap before? They would have possibly had enough of a gap, and they decided to leave him out. I don't know where he was on the track at the time, but I think he had enough time to come in. But he now comes out P3. He's on the soft compound tyre, but he's got a lot of work to do because he's got to pass Bottas and Hamilton to win the Grand Prix. And that will not be easy. Yes, he has the power, but you can guarantee Hamilton and Bottas will not be easy to pass when it comes to securing a 1-2, a vital 1-2 for the Mercedes team. So let me now do the order. So it's lap 31 out of 53. It is Lewis Hamilton leading, and this is all absolutely full position. There's no one out of position at the moment, by the way. So it's Hamilton leading from Valtteri Bottas in second. Charles Leclerc is third. Max Verstappen is fourth. By the way, this is great for Max Verstappen because he was so quick yesterday and on Friday. So Max might get a podium yet. Carlos Sainz is fifth. Kevin Magnussen is sixth. Norris is seventh. Sergio Perez is eighth. And great news for Racing Point, Stroll is also P9. And that's because he pitted under the virtual safety car. Here's a replay of Kvyat exiting the pits. Oh, that's just a replay of his pit stop. I think they're showing that because he is the home driver. And go on.
I'll just say Sebastian Vettel's last team radio after an MG UK problem. I think we're being shown the right replay is the front jack. Oh dear, for the Alfa Romeo team wouldn't go. And then the man who's there with the spare jack pulled it out and both of them comically fell over. Oh dear me. But just back onto Sebastian Vettel's last team radio as he retired from the Grand Prix after an MG UK problem was bring back those effing V12s.
He is, well, absolutely miffed. So let me now read out the order. Safety car is still out and it will be out for another lap. The reason it will be, I think, out for another 2 laps is because the rest of the field is so far behind. Again, Hamilton leading, Bottas second, Leclerc third, Verstappen fourth, Sainz is fifth, Magnussen is in 6th place, Norris is 7th, Perez 8th, Stroll 9th, Albon 10th, Hulkenberg is P11, then it's Gasly and Kvyat 12th and 13th. And then Giovinazzi is 14th and Raikkonen are 15th. Alpha are last with both cars. And then Kubica and Russell, 16th and 17th, are out of the Grand Prix. And then in 18th and also out the Grand Prix is Sebastian Vettel, who you have to say really caused all the mayhem to get underway. And then obviously Russell finished it off, didn't he? By going into the barriers. But yeah, it's lap 32 out of 53, and we should be getting underway probably at the end of lap 33 to allow the pack to catch up, unless they can do it on this lap. And I have no idea what's going to happen, if I'm being honest, because I think any one of the top 3 could win, really. I mean, Valtteri, you know, has been slow today, but you never know. Could get a run on Lewis Hamilton down to turn 2. Charles Leclerc should have the best car, but can he get past? Max Verstappen is in P4 on medium compound tyres. So he will fall away early on, but it'll come back to him later on. Sainz should finish in 5th at the front of the midfield unless Albon comes through very quickly. And then it's going to be very close between Magnussen, Norris, Perez, Stroll, Albon, Hulkenberg, Gasly, Kvyat, Giovinazzi and Raikkonen for the points, as Albon has just passed Stroll for some reason. Albon has gone up to P9 for some reason. But the safety car is in at the end of this lap. And Hamilton now backing that pack up. And yeah, Albon has passed Stroll under the safety car for some reason. I don't know why. But maybe Stroll went off the track. So Albon up to P9, but we'll keep an eye on that. Might be a penalty later on. And now, Lewis Hamilton comes to turn 13. Now through turn 14. He's not quite getting on it yet, as all the cars warming up their tyres. What is going to happen in the last 20 laps of the Russian Grand Prix? What could be a mental end to the Russian Grand Prix? Let's see what happens as Lewis Hamilton now gets on with it. And Lewis Hamilton will now start building a lead as Verstappen warming up his medium compound tyres. And F1 is, and oh, he locks up so hard as Verstappen at the penultimate corner. He gets away with it. As now the race is back underway. Lap 33, Hamilton leads from Bottas second. Leclerc is third, but Leclerc already catching Bottas in a straight line. I'm sure he's turned it up to party mode. As Verstappen is fourth. Leclerc, is he going to go for on Bottas? Oh, does he go for it? No, he dummies to try and put him off. But it does not put him off. Verstappen is fourth. And then it's Sainz in fifth. Magnussen sixth. And then Norris in seventh. And Perez. And Albon has passed Perez. Albon now to P8. And Raikkonen has passed Antonio Giovinazzi in that little battle for the Alfa Romeos. And Leclerc all over the back of Bottas. But it's going to be hard, very hard, for him to get past in the next few laps, because it is tough to pass at the Sochi Winter Olympic Park. So yeah, Albon up to P8 now. And Kimi Raikkonen is 14th in what is an absolutely terrible weekend for Alfa Romeo, as Charles Leclerc is about 0.6 of a second behind Valtteri Bottas. Now he gets in the slipstream and will try to get close, but he will not be able to go for a move here. Max Verstappen already miles behind this front three, who are all on a softer and I think fresher compound of tyres. And they now come through turn 15. Turn 16.
Leclerc stays close here.
Yep, it is. It's crucial he stays close until we get DRS. If he's half a second behind with DRS, he should be able to get the move done. But he has to stay close. He cannot afford to fall back. And he gets a good exit off of that corner. He gets now a slipstream. But I don't think he'll get quite enough of a run. We don't know, though. Gets in a slipstream. very powerful in a straight line. The Ferrari, will he go for the move? No, nowhere near close enough. He needs to be about 2 or 3 tenths closer if he wants to get that move done. And the rest of the order has, for now, settled down. As Leclerc has to get past Bottas. Valtteri is literally in P2 to help Lewis Hamilton at the moment, because Valtteri is not as quick as Lewis Hamilton. And as long as Valtteri keeps Leclerc behind, then all is good. But can he keep him behind? We'll have to see. As they now come through turn 7, now into turn 8. And Leclerc has to be praying that he can get the DRS soon, because he does need to get past very soon. As he's now dropping off quite a bit from Bottas, but now he'll gain some performance back on the straight. And he gains about 2.5 tenths of a second back down to turn 13. And Lewis Hamilton not exactly pulling away massively, but still pulling away from Valtteri and Charles Leclerc. And Leclerc coming through 15 and 16 now, understeering like mad in the dirty air of Valtteri Bottas. And looks a bit further behind this time. That is not good for Charles Leclerc. Here's a replay at Toro Rosso. That's Gasly and Kvyat, and I don't really know what Kvyat was trying to do there. He was never going to go around the outside, so he took to the runoff. And Leclerc now has DRS. So now Charles Leclerc can really now start hunting after Valtteri Bottas. And they now come through turn 3. And he's following about half a second behind. And surely now DRS, as Albon has passed Norris. We're not seeing it, but Alexander Albon has passed Lando Norris for P. And now Norris has got back again. Norris is back ahead. I think they're side by side through turn 3 and 4 at the moment. And Albon has got back ahead. So Albon, who is on fresh, soft tyres that are not worn at all, they're completely fresh, is up to 7th place. And Leclerc will now get DRS, I think, on the straight to turn 13. Yes, he will. And he looks about a tenth closer this time down to turn 13 than he was the lap before. And he gets in the slipstream, and he is surely going to pass down the pit straight in a moment. He's definitely faster, and he's got to get the move done down the pit straight when they come onto it in just a moment, as they come through 15 and 16 again. And Leclerc dropping back now through the final sector where the Ferrari isn't quite that good. And he's dropped back quite a bit as Lewis Hamilton does a new fastest lap of a 1:37.1. As we're now on lap 36 out of 53, and Leclerc gets DRS again. Can he get close enough for an overtake? Will he go for it? He goes for it. No, he feints to go for it. Valtteri, though, does not fall for it. Good driving by Valtteri not to fall for any shenanigans by Charles Leclerc. And Nib, you have to say, this is crucial for Charles Leclerc's race.
Well, like we've seen earlier on in the F2 race, because of the absolute atrocious and awful final sector, the cars lose so much time in dirty air that they're actually not able to make an overtake down the massive long pitch straight. So we're just seeing exactly what happened in F2 around here at this awful, awful circuit. And yeah.
Yeah, that is absolutely correct. And that's why this track is not known for great racing. As Leclerc looks about second behind now. He's starting to drop back. I think the tyres are starting to go off. He gets DRS again. So he'll stay, within, but he will not be close enough to go for an overtake, I don't think. As, Bottas clearly ahead into turn 13. Leclerc trying everything he can to get close enough, but he just can't get close enough in this final sector where the Mercedes is at its best. And Leclerc, lots of understeer through turn 15, and I think now he'll be over a second behind when they come through the DRS straight, and yet he will be. So Leclerc starting to fall back as Lewis Hamilton does another new fastest lap, a 1:37.1. Max Verstappen, by the way, is actually starting to slowly but surely close to Leclerc, as Leclerc is being held up by Bottas, so we might have a three-way fight soon for P2. as Bottas, for the moment, is about a second. Clear as here comes Nico Hülkenberg. DRS down the pit straight. On Lance Stroll. Stroll defends to the inside. Surely. Yes, he does. Oh, very late. Hülkenberg round the outside. And Hülkenberg has a move done. Oh, Toro Rosso. Oh, and that was Gasly. That was Gasly diving down the inside. And Raikkonen. Is that Raikkonen? Yes, it is. Kimi Raikkonen somehow gets up to 13th. That was a very aggressive dive by Pierre Gasly. But Nico Hülkenberg then, who is on now fresh soft compound tyres, is up to P10 and now hunts after Lando Norris, a person he was faster than in qualifying. As now Kimi Raikkonen up to 13th in probably the most awful race he's had in a long while, and Pierre Gasly down to P14. It's Alfa versus Toro Rosso for the final 4 positions in this race at the moment. And yeah, not looking great for either team. And Leclerc is over a second behind Valtteri. And this is looking great for Mercedes. We have 16 laps to go. Now 15 to go as Hamilton does another new fastest lap of 1:36.6. And here is Gasly. And yeah, just went slightly too deep and then went over the escape road. Very close though. Very lucky there was no contact like there was in practice 2 through that sequence for the 2 Toro Rosso drivers. And the closest gap on track at the moment is either Raikkonen and Kvyat or Hülkenberg and Norris. As now we get to see Hülkenberg and Norris, and Hülkenberg looks as though he could be overtaking very, very soon. Raikkonen also getting very close to Daniel Kvyat. So good fights going on. Also, though, Albon not really getting after Kevin Magnussen that quickly. Or Carlos Sainz. Magnussen's actually doing really well. He's holding down 6th place and not losing that much time to anyone else. So K-Mag really doing well in the Haas. He started the race in 13th and he's currently in P6. Of course, he benefited massively from the virtual safety car. So that's why he's in that position. But still, great drive up to this point. And now the gaps are now starting to widen out a bit. I think the closest gap is this one we're seeing on screen. And it's Raikkonen and Kvyat. And that's the one we are currently looking at. As Leclerc is about a couple tenths closer on this lap. But not close enough to really think about going for a move on Valtteri Bottas, as we are now on lap 39 out of 53, and the gaps and the order has really settled down. And you have to say, Nib, it's really Mercedes' race to lose, isn't it?
Well, yeah. Hamilton 3 seconds ahead of Bottas, who really is just awfully slow this weekend. As now Leclerc, I believe, has got, well, he's back within a second. Now, I'm not exactly sure where they were in circuit, but there's Kimi Raikkonen now looking a bit threatening for Danny Kvyat for P12. But yeah, certainly Mercedes race to lose now with 14 or 15 laps to go. Mercedes, if they lose for here, it's going to take some sort of miracle, really. But you know, we certainly thought there was going to be a Ferrari win earlier on in the race. Anything can happen. So it remains to be seen.
Absolutely. And yeah, Charles Leclerc definitely close on this lap. He's now only half a second behind. We should be seeing that right now, Mr. Director. Leclerc, and here we go. Through turn 14, Leclerc a lot closer. As Leclerc just cooled off his tyres, and now he is now going for the move. Oh, that corner is so pathetic in an F1 car, especially in the race. In turn 15, loads of understeer, and he now drops behind massively in this final sector. And he will be within a second, though. So Leclerc is now closing to Bottas again, as Verstappen there doing very well to hang on in the background. And yet Leclerc gets DRS. Can he go for a move? I don't think he will unless he absolutely throws it. No, he does not. But he has to hope that Valtteri makes a slight mistake on the run down to a straight. for him to get past, because at the moment I don't see how Charles Leclerc really is going to get past Valtteri Bottas. And you have to say, even though Valtteri has been really slow this weekend, he is really doing well for the team. And this is exactly why he was signed for the team for another year, because he is a fantastic number 2 to Lewis Hamilton, and he's doing that role perfectly right now as he's holding up Charles Leclerc retreat and allowing Lewis Hamilton to build a lead. And there is Lewis Hamilton on the TV as we're now on lap 40 out of 53. Hamilton leading, Bottas, Leclerc, Verstappen, Sainz, Magnussen, Albon, Perez, Norris and Hulkenberg. That's the top 10. As Leclerc has DRS, but is a bit further behind this time than he was last time, and will certainly not be close enough to go or get anywhere near close enough for a move. And it's really through this final sector where Charles Leclerc needs to be closer. He's getting way too much understeer in his car, and he's unable to follow as close as he really needs to if he's going to go for a move. And yet, he's still about the same gap behind as he was this time last lap. And now he'll now come onto the start-finish line, and he'll open the DRS, but he won't be close enough again, as Hamilton is pulling away about 0.3 of a second a lap on his teammate, and that is just about enough for the moment to get the race victory, as long as Valtteri keeps Charles Leclerc firmly behind, as at the moment we have a very good fight for P9 between Norris, Hulkenberg and Stroll, and Leclerc looks closer through turn.
Between Magnussen and Albon, but of course we're not being shown that because the midfield doesn't matter, as our Carlos Sainz went on about the other day. We're not going to see anything here. Unless Bottas makes a mistake, there's not going to be any overtake here because it's an absolute awful track. Look at that. Magnussen and Albon separated by 1/10 of a second. Instead, we're being Charles Leclerc just absolutely drive with absolutely no ability to get past Valtteri Bottas, even with Ferrari's ridiculous engine. Still not being shown anything between Magnussen and Albon, even with Leclerc not even having DRS. Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, I think that shows that the FOM directing this season has been absolutely terrible. It has been. Yeah, I understand that, showing the front is important, especially if there is a race, a proper, a fight for the win or the podium going on, but you should be really showing the closest battle on track at all times. And the closest one at the moment is Hulkenberg and Norris, separated by 0.3 of a second, but we're not seeing it, obviously. We're seeing Leclerc following Bottas, but not having DRS. As we're now on lap 42 out of 53. And if you were to ask me at the moment who's going to win, I think surely it's going to be Lewis Hamilton, because even if Leclerc does get past, his front tyres will be that destroyed from following Valtteri that he won't be able to catch up. So if nothing goes wrong for Lewis Hamilton, I think this is Lewis Hamilton's race victory number, 4 around Sochi. And here we go, finally. Oh, Albon getting oversteered through turn 7 and almost spun then. And now he sits behind Magnussen again as Perez now closes up to Alexander Albon. And yet, there's, again, a great fight going on for P9, Hulkenberg, Norris and Stroll, and we are not seeing it for some reason. They'll appear in the background. There you go, in the background, but again, we don't see it, as Charles Leclerc does a fastest sector 1. Must have turned his engine up a bit. And now Albon, on that fresh, soft compound tyre, now closes up to Kevin Magnussen, who is on, I wouldn't say worn mediums, but not as good of a tyre, let's put it that way. As Albon now gets DRS down to turn 13. Can Albon make a move? Here we go. Albon, Magnussen defends the inside. Alex Albon goes round the outside. Albon, though, I think has broke way too late. Oh, no, he hasn't. He's made it. I thought that was brake dust coming off his car. And he gets through around the outside at turn 13 as Lewis Hamilton does a new fastest lap of 1:36.4. So Albon up to 6th as Magnussen now starting to drop back and struggle. And here we go. So Albon round the outside, DRS open, and I thought he was going to lock up. But he didn't. He got through just about okay. I think it was dust what I saw, not brake dust. So Magnussen down to 7th now. And here we go. Hulkenberg. Norris and Stroll fighting for P9. Is Hulkenberg close enough to possibly go for a move? No, not at the moment. But if he gets a couple tenths closer, I think he can go for that overtake. As they now come through turn 3. And of course, no passing opportunities really through here unless you are literally side by side with the car you are racing against. As now Perez is within DRS of Kevin Magnussen. Those two had a very good battle, I think, last year at the same track. So it'll be interesting to see how those two race one another in the Haas and Racing Point respectively. And now, yeah, currently looking at the battle for P9. Hulkenberg, Norris and Stroll. And Hulkenberg, he's going to try his best to get past. But you have to say again for Renault, not good enough race result at the moment. McLaren, at the moment, are scoring 12 points in this race. That might go down, though, because Albon is catching Carlos Sainz. But Sainz is a very good driver. So that'll be tough for Albon to pass him. But, yeah, McLaren looking great here for 12 points in the Constructors at the moment. And it's all settled down for the moment. Nib, do you think we're going to see any overtaking? I don't think we are we?
No.
Sounds very optimistic. Saying that, though, look at Sergio Perez. He's now closing on Kevin Magnussen. We're not going to see it, though. We should be seeing it. There we go. Perez. Is he going to go around the outside? No, he isn't. He's going to cut back through turn. Oh, Magnussen's got off. Famous last words, Nib.
That's still not an overtake.
Perez is up to now 7th place. By the way, I forgot to update that Perez was ahead of Norris. Sorry about that, but I didn't actually see how he did that. But yeah, I'm going to agree. That's not an overtake, is it? Magnussen's just gone straight off the track. And
Magnussen went the wrong side of the bollard as well.
Yeah.
He should have went around to the left-hand side, but oh well, I'm sure he doesn't really care, as now we're really only going to be seeing the battling between Norris and Hulkenberg now for the rest of the race, really.
Yeah, and yeah, that is the only fight on track. Charles Leclerc is currently P3 again. And he's 1.5 seconds behind Bottas. And if you ask me now who's going to win, it's going to be Lewis Hamilton. And I think Mercedes have got the 1-2. I really think they do. I don't see how Charles Leclerc gets past. Somehow, Sebastian Vettel is currently winning the driver of the day. Well, he did drive very well early on. So we'll think about that later on, who our driver of the day was. But anyway, back to the track. Hulkenberg is 3/4 of a second behind Lando Norris. Can he get close enough?
And for people asking what happened to Vettel's engine for the 5,000th time, his MG UK failed.
Yep. Did you say that earlier?
I did say it earlier. I said it in the chat a couple of times now, but people can't read the chat.
So yeah, we have said it, guys. So if you don't know what the issue is with Sebastian Vettel or what it was, again, MG UK failure. It's been said plenty of times, so there you go. Norris, Hulkenberg, Stroll, though, still fighting crazily over P9. Not side by side or anything, but it is a big fight, especially for Racing Point, though, because Perez is currently on 6 points and Stroll is P11. And if he can nick a point, that'd be vital for them because they're only, I think, 10 points behind Toro Rosso, who currently are not scoring any points. So this is very, very important for the Racing Point team. That Stroll can possibly nick a point and Perez can finish at least where he is right now. As we are on lap 40, about to be lap 47 out of 53. As Norris still a few tenths ahead of Hulkenberg and Stroll. Oh, locking up going into turn 13 and luckily did not go to the barriers like Albon did yesterday. And no, it is lap 46 out of 53. The drivers crossed the line quite a time ago, as they are miles quicker, of course, than the midfield. And this is really the only battle. Leclerc just simply cannot get close enough to Valtteri Bottas. And Hulkenberg, is he close enough this time? I don't believe he is. No, he's nowhere near. He will get to about 4 tenths behind, but that's still not close enough. You've got to be about half a second behind as you enter the DRS activation point if you're going to get a move done. But Hulkenberg is simply not getting that close. And also, the longer Norris stays ahead, the more Hulkenberg's fresher and softer tyres will wear out. Because, of course, the softer compounds wear out more aggressively and quicker than the harder compound tyres. As, yeah, this is the only fight on track, as Gasly is now half a second behind Kimi Räikkönen. Time penalty for Kevin Magnussen, 5 seconds. And I know what that is. That is what you mentioned, Nib. That is going the wrong side of the bollard. As Lewis Hamilton does a new fastest lap on now lap 47 out of 53. And that fastest lap is a 1:36.3. We're not far away, I believe. No, I don't think actually we are that close to the fastest lap. I don't think we're anywhere near. Anyway, Albon is now within a second of Carlos Sainz. And Hulkenberg looks a bit closer on the timing screen now than he was before. Here we go, Albon on board. Now tries to hunt after Carlos Sainz. Can Carlos hold off Albon? But now he can, but can he hold him off for the final 6 laps of this 2019 Russian Grand Prix? And Hulkenberg is actually quite close to Norris at the moment. I'd like to see that, but we're not going to. Even though Hulkenberg is... No, he's not close enough now. And Charles Leclerc, just to update any of the Leclerc Ferrari fans, he's currently 1.1 seconds behind Bottas, and Valtteri Bottas is 5 seconds behind Lewis Hamilton. So yeah, unless Leclerc can pass Bottas now, Lewis Hamilton is absolutely winning this race. But in fact, I think that this is surely going to be a Mercedes 1-2, and they're going to continue their pure dominance of the Russian Grand Prix. As the only drivers within DRS at the moment are Hulkenberg and Norris, as we're now on lap 48 out of 53. And yeah, nothing really going on. We're just seeing on the TV Albon about 3/4 of a second behind Carlos Sainz in the battle for P5. This is vital for McLaren if they can, maintain this position, because it would not go amiss and it would help a lot. But Albon looks to be a couple tenths closer this time. And
Leclerc is back within a second. Yay! Maybe we might have a little bit of excitement in this race.
As you say that, he then dropped over a second behind as they now come through turn 8.
Well, I mean, it should be expected. There are about 90,000 90-degree corners before 2 places which you can overtake. So, yeah, of course.
Yeah, and Leclerc does not have DRS, so it is back how it was. And Albon has passed Sainz, so we've not seen it. So great.
Oh.
FOM, you are a wonderful, wonderful crew. So Albon has got up to 5th, and we haven't even seen it. Albon is 5th, Carlos Sainz is 6th. And to me, it looks as though Carlos Sainz might have gone off the track in whatever move happened, because Carlos dropping back very quickly. But good drive by Albon. Good drive. P5, yesterday was difficult, but yeah, P5, that will help his case for next year. But I think that'll be the last overtaking action we get in this 2019 Russian Grand Prix.
And thankfully the last one at Sochi. Just had to add that in there.
Yeah, if this is the last one, I cannot wait for it to be over, because I hate this track with a passion. As Albon, let's see, so Albon through turn 3 gets close and dives down the inside, I guess, at turn 4. Yes, he does. Sainz tries to fight it back, but he can't, and Albon gets through, so that's simple enough. As we're now on lap 49 out of 53. And I think that is really it for the overtaking action, unless Hulkenberg can somehow get another 2 or 3 tenths closer to Norris in the final 4 or 5 laps. And Leclerc continues to be in P3. And you have to say, yeah, Lewis Hamilton and Mercedes, yeah, they got lucky. But Ferrari caused the virtual safety car. So I don't think we can possibly say that Ferrari deserved to win today. Yeah, they have the pace, but they caused the virtual safety car that won Lewis Hamilton the Grand Prix. So I think this is a deserved victory. Yeah, again, it was a bit lucky, but, you know, they had to still be in that type of position and be, you know, that far ahead when they hadn't pitted yet to get the gap and to be in the position they are currently in. And now we are on lap 50 out of 53. And Nib, would you say Ferrari, again, throwing away another race win?
Well, certainly the technical issue that Vettel has had has very unfortunately then cost Charles Leclerc this race. Obviously, they can't do anything about that, but um, you know, they've thrown away the race from obviously a MG UK failure. That's the way that they've thrown away this race.
Absolutely, and we're seeing on board. Oh, Leclerc almost dropped it then through the exit of turn 16.
Looks like what he was doing in qualifying yesterday through that exact corner.
Absolutely, and he's now starting to drop back a bit. So I think Charles Leclerc's tyres have now gone off the cliff a bit. And, yeah, the gaps are all about the same. And no one is really, you know, making a move at the moment. So the running order, not the racing order, will stay the same, I think, until the end of this Russian Grand Prix, as we're about to make it lap 51 out of 53. And Charles Leclerc, it is a shame what's happened to him, but, you know, that's how the race is played out. You can't expect these things to happen. They just happen, and you've got to do the best you can to react to it as a team. And you have to say as well, not only did Ferrari, you know, give Mercedes a lead with the virtual safety car caused by Sebastian Vettel's MG UK failure, but also Ferrari could have pitted Leclerc a lap before when the safety car came out. And that could have put Leclerc in a position to be right up the gearbox of Lewis Hamilton, but they decided not to and pit a lap after that. And that is another reason why Ferrari have completely thrown away this race win in true Ferrari style. And this is why I don't get too overhyped with Ferrari, because this is always just around the corner with this team, as Gasly is now right up the back of Kimi Raikkonen through turn 13 and 14. Don't think Gasly will pass Raikkonen though, because the Ferrari-powered Alpha is pretty quick. And yeah, Leclerc really struggling now. 2 seconds behind Valtteri Bottas, as Lewis Hamilton has now started to back off, allowing Valtteri to catch up a bit. And the only person within DRS at the moment is Pierre Gasly on Kimi Raikkonen, as we have about 2.5 laps to go in the Russian Grand Prix. And I'm sure Charles Leclerc on the radio is talking about how disappointed he is in how things have played out. But yeah, Ferrari have just completely thrown this away. As he comes through turn 15 and turn 16. The only good news, I guess, is that he'll go to third in the Drivers' Championship. But as Lewis Hamilton starts the penultimate lap with the fastest lap of 1:35.7. That's a very quick time.
Well,
go on.
New lap record.
Oh, a new lap record. Okay. I thought it was maybe a 35.8, but I wasn't quite sure. So Lewis Hamilton, new lap record of 1:35.7, and hopefully that'll be the last time we do a lap record at this awful track. Yeah, as I was saying with Leclerc, the only positive is that he will go up to third in the Drivers' Championship, but only by about 3 points from Max Verstappen, who I'm sure will be back roaring at Suzuka, which is, of course, Honda's home track. Red Bull always go better around there, and Max Verstappen is very good at Suzuka, as Gasly still following Raikkonen as close as he can. And this is again the closest gap on track. And they now start their penultimate lap. That's how far behind they are. And Antonio Giovinazzi for the moment is at the very back. And Lewis Hamilton should be coming through in a moment to start his final lap of this Russian Grand Prix, where you have to say, for the first 20 laps, looked as though Ferrari absolutely had a 1-2 in the bag. But again, Ferrari's reliability issue completely handed it to Lewis Hamilton. Yeah, there you go. We are now on the final lap of the 2019 Russian Grand Prix. And here comes Lewis Hamilton now, down to turn 2. And he has, I don't think he's driven that well today, but he's been, pace-wise, he's done enough to get the victory. So, still drove well, but not amazing. As he comes through turn 3 now, down to turn 4. And Stroll now is actually within 8/10 of Hulkenberg. As Hamilton comes through turn 5, now into turn 6 and 7. And he'll now come into turn 8, a very tricky corner on the course. And Lewis Hamilton now is, how many points is that? 73 points clear, I believe, of Valtteri Bottas. If he does win this race with the fastest lap, but I'm sure Charles Leclerc will try to take that away. As Lewis Hamilton now comes through turn 13, and then into the left-hander of 14. Been a very difficult weekend for this team. The pace has not been there, but still, when it comes to making mistakes and getting the best out of what you have at that weekend, Mercedes are still the kings of Formula 1 as Lewis Hamilton comes through the penultimate corner and into the final corner, and Lewis Hamilton wins the 2019 Russian Grand Prix. Mercedes continue their 100% win record at Sochi. Valtteri Bottas finishes in second. It is the first Mercedes 1-2 since Silverstone. Charles Leclerc is P3. And then it will be Max Verstappen in P4. Good drive. He did the best he could, considering the circumstances. Albon is 5th, Sainz is 6th, and then it'll be Perez, Magnussen, Norris, and Hulkenberg completing the top 10. And finishing the race, but not finishing the points, is Stroll, Kvyat, Raikkonen, Gasly, Giovinazzi, and retiring from the race is Kubica, Russell, Vettel, Ricciardo, and Grosjean. So, there you go. There is your Grand Prix. Nib, just give your thoughts on, the race winner, Lewis Hamilton.
Well, Hamilton, he didn't do anything wrong during the race, did he? And then after he inherited the lead after the virtual safety car, he completely and utterly dominated from his teammate who was at one of his best tracks, absolutely awful all weekend long, and in the end wins the race quite comfortably and setting the lap record at this Grand Prix circuit, which is the worst Grand Prix circuit I think we've had in F1 over the last couple of years. And thank Christ it is gone because it's absolutely awful. I think today, if we're at a good track like, say, Silverstone or Hockenheim, that would have been an absolute classic with what was going on with the top 3 drivers, I should say. But yeah, it was not to be. It was an absolutely awful race towards the end. No chance of overtaking. The design of the track is awful, and Hamilton in the end wins quite comfortably.
As well, who is your driver of the day, and what would you rate the race out of 10?
I'd honestly probably say that Albon is my driver of the day after Vettel retired. I obviously before Vettel retired, Vettel was quite clearly the best driver of the day, and also I think Carlos Sainz deserves an honourable shout out. He had an absolutely fantastic start to the Grand Prix, didn't he? He was up past Hamilton on the run down to turn 2. And obviously, big talking point will be the team orders scenario at Ferrari post this race with Charles Leclerc and Sebastian Vettel. But it was a what do I rate the Grand Prix? I think the latter stage of the race certainly overshadowed what was a pretty good start to the race. I'd probably give it a 5. a 5 out of 10.
Yeah, I'd give it a 5. It was the first half of the race was pretty good. The second half of it, nothing really happened at all. So yeah, 5 out of 10. And my driver of the day will be Sebastian Vettel because I think if he doesn't have the reliability issue, I think you could possibly, if Ferrari did go on to win, of course, which I think they would have, I think you would have to say Sebastian Vettel would have won Ferrari the race, even if he didn't win the race itself, because the pace he had in that first 2 laps or something was so good. So for me, driver of the day, Sebastian Vettel, and it is a shame that he had his reliability issue, but it's not the first time, is it, that he's had that in 2019. But guys, let us know in the live chat. Let's see what you guys have to say. Let us know who your driver of the day was, and what would you rate the race out of 10? For me and Nib, we're going for a 5, and yeah, let's see what you guys have to say in the next, I don't know, 20 minutes or so, or 15, 20 minutes before we come to the end of the stream. Ruse says Albon, driver of the day. Patrick says Vettel. Personal E says Albon. Tazim Ahmed is asking why Leclerc failed to pass Bottas. 1, because he didn't get a good enough run on Bottas at the safety car restart. 2, because passing at this track is, as I said in my preview on Thursday, it's near impossible. And really, the qualifying and the start of the race really decides what happens in this Grand Prix, or, you know, at a virtual safety car or safety car period, of course. And yeah, once a driver settles in behind another driver in the dirty air, especially around a track like this, you're not going to overtake. You're not going to, because your tyres, your front tyres get too worn, and then you can't do anything about it. And of course, Ferrari have worse tyre wear than Mercedes do. So, you know, like, if Leclerc was going to fight for the win, he had to get past Bottas, really, in the first 2 or 3 laps after the safety car came in. For the second time, of course, the safety car was out in this race. So those are the reasons why. I don't really think Leclerc could have done much today. Maybe Ye could have defended at the start, but it seems as though that was the plan for the Grand Prix. So I don't really think Leclerc could have done much today. But yeah, disappointing, very disappointing for Ferrari. They should have won today, but they completely threw it away. Let's find some other driver of the days or ratings out of 10 for the race. Dexter Hall says Albon. Rex 4x4 says Hamilton. Slick Silver. Singh says Vettel and 6 out of 10. By the way, good news, we've hit 8,000 subs. So very, very good news. And we are getting close, guys, to 10,000, which of course is the end of year target for the channel. And hopefully we'll get there by the end of the year. Iraqi Productions, I think it is, says Albon for driver of the day. Tonka, great to see you, mate, says Albon. Steve Blakemore says Vettel. DJ Burp says Albon and race. He will rate it a 5 out of 10. Harith Zach says Hamilton, driver of the day. Nisha says Sainz. Crystal Racing says Inaki Rueda is the GOAT. Rezi says Hamilton. Let me find some others if I can. Someone saying there Bottas controlled Leclerc. I think someone said that. Yep, Trevor Moyes saying that. Tom says 7 out of 10 for the race, so you thought it was better. Bottas did his job, absolutely. Let me find some other comments here. Crystal Racing says 6 out of 10. 6.5 out of 10 for the race. Science driver of the day for Irvin Sessendorf. Say Rugara says 6.5. Crystal Racing says Albon for driver of the day. Mr. Labman says Vettel for driver of the day. Some people angry about Leclerc complaining on the radio. during the Grand Prix, you can't really get too upset about that, you know, against Charles Leclerc. You can understand it, you know. If they said, you know, oh, we'll swap it round after 10 laps if Vettel gets into the lead, if then that, you know, doesn't happen, then of course he's not going to be happy. But you'll notice after Leclerc jumped Vettel at the pit stops, he wasn't moaning anymore, because I think from that point on, if Sebastian Vettel does not have a reliability issue, Ferrari, I think, would finish 1 and 2. But, you know, that's just the way the race panned out. 6 out of 10 for the race, says Jan. Spider Monkey says Vettel driver of the day. Let me find some final few comments here before we come to the end of the stream. By the way, guys, thank you for coming along. And if you are new to the channel and you are new to watch-alongs, we do this for every practice 2, qualifying and race for every weekend in 2019. I'll be doing the same for 2020 as well. So don't forget to subscribe for that. Bottom right of the screen, you can do it there. Or go to my homepage, subscribe, and hit the notifications bell. And also don't forget to hit the like button for more content like this and to help out the channel growing. And of course, we'll be back in 2 weeks' time for the next series of watch-alongs, but very early in the morning UK time for the Japanese Grand Prix. Right, I'll read out a final few comments and then we'll come to the end of the stream. I just saw, actually, Tonka told me to read out the retirements in case no one knew. I'll do that now. So, the retirements, Robert Kubica, George Russell, so both Williams is out, Sebastian Vettel, Daniel Ricciardo, Romain Grosjean, and I think that's it, isn't it? Yes, it is. So those were the retirements. And again, the finishing order, if you're just joining us, if you want to know what the finishing order of the race was, it's running along the bottom of the screen. So it's Hamilton who won from Bottas second, and then Leclerc third, Verstappen fourth, Albon fifth, Carlos Sainz in sixth, Perez seventh, Magnussen eighth, and then Norris in ninth. No, Norris is eighth actually, because Magnussen had a penalty. So there you go. And then Hulkenberg is 10th, and it's Stroll, Kvyat, Raikkonen, Gasly, Giovinazzi for the top 15. So yeah, Norris 8th. I just forgot that Magnussen had a penalty, but still good for Haas. That is their first points finish in a dry race since Monaco. Wow. How bad has it been since then for Haas F1? That is their first points finish in a dry race for, how long is that? 4 months? That is a long time. But they deserve it. They've had a good weekend. Right. What are you laughing at, Niv?
Hamilton gave a big hug to the babushka doll. In the corner, it was quite funny.
Right, let me just read off these final few comments and then we will get to the end of the stream here. Crystal Racing says, Haas have fixed their car. Alpha better watch out. I wouldn't quite say that yet, but Haas, you cannot doubt in the last 2 or 3 races, they've made progress with their car. And that's really all that matters. And yeah, that might be the difference between P8 and P9, the constructors, maybe. But yeah, Alpha, and by the way, Sebastian Vettel has officially won the Driver of the Day vote. But yeah, Alpha, I think their 2019 is done. I think Alpha now really should concentrate on 2020 because they're not going to finish higher than P8, clearly, in the constructors. They can't get it together enough on a race day. And Kimi Raikkonen, what a terrible race he had. Jump start, didn't have any pace, was behind a Williams for quite a long time, and he couldn't even pull away from his pit stop. So, yeah, terrible race for him. Right, let me find one final comment, and then we'll come to the end of the stream. And it is from Emerson C. That's the final comment. Leclerc could have passed Bottas. That was his chance, but he was too slow. I wouldn't quite say he was too slow. I think, again, as I said earlier, if you're going to get past another driver, even if you are faster, you've got to be loads faster, like a second a lap, and you've got to do it straight away. Because, if you settle into a rhythm behind that driver, you will then, your front tyres will go off and you won't be able to follow anymore. So I don't think Leclerc was too slow. I think basically what happened was he tried to stay close enough, but his tyres went off and he couldn't maintain enough of a gap to go for P2 or even P1. But guys, that has been it for the 2019 Russian Grand Prix weekend. And Nib, thanks for coming on, mate. I know you had a bit of a sore throat earlier in the weekend, so great to have you on for a 50-50 Grand Prix, let's be honest, when it comes to it, entertainment. But yeah, thanks for coming on, mate, and we will see you for the podcast next Saturday.
Yes, indeed. Thanks for having me on as usual, and thankfully my throat did clear up in the past 12 hours or so, so that I could be part of the stream. And hopefully next time out in Suzuka, we have a bit of a better Grand Prix. And of course, thanks for making us hit 8,000 subscribers. Big thank you to everyone, and thanks for all the interaction that we've had today in the chat. And as Chaz mentioned, we'll see you next time for the podcast on Saturday.
Absolutely, and that episode will actually be the 50th episode of the podcast, so I cannot wait to do that. Again, guys, for earlier on the stream, apologies about me going live late, but again, I had tech issues with my absolute terrible laptop that today is its final day of use for my channel. After today, I'm going to be going to a PC, a very powerful PC, a lot more powerful than this laptop, and it should eliminate worries and, reliability issues when it comes to me being able to stream at the right time. So, this laptop, it's been, going for 2 years? I've been using it for 2 years for uploading videos, streaming. It's had its run, but it's time to get rid, I believe. So yeah, sorry about that, but still we had great numbers, almost 1,000 of you watching live. And yeah, don't forget to subscribe for more watch-alongs like this for the rest of 2019, for practice 2, qualifying in the race for every race weekend. And also, just to let you guys know of what the plan of content is between Russia and Suzuka, because of course the Japanese Grand Prix is in a fortnight, it's in 2 weeks' time. So in about, 45 minutes, I'm going to upload my race review for the Grand Prix. Tomorrow will be an incident analysis for the Russian Grand Prix. And then next Thursday, I'll do a driver ratings video, rating the drivers based on how they did at the 2019 Russian Grand Prix. Then on Saturday will be the podcast, and then the week leading into the Japanese Grand Prix will be a video on Nico Hülkenberg and how I, feel about him at the moment and his entire career. I haven't done a video yet on Hülkenberg, but I think it is now time to do one. Also, I'm going to do a preview for Suzuka, of course, on the Thursday, and in between those two videos will be a video looking at Lewis Hamilton versus Michael Schumacher. So don't forget to come along to that. That video will be coming out probably on the Wednesday before Suzuka. So 2 days before practice 2 or practice day in Suzuka, that video will be coming out. So don't forget to subscribe for that content coming up, bottom right of the screen. You can do it right there, or go to my homepage, subscribe and hit the notifications bell. Don't forget to hit the like button as well for more content like this, and it does help the channel grow as well. Comment down below what you thought of this video, and comment down below what did you think of the Russian Grand Prix and what happened in this Grand Prix. And as well, don't forget to join my Discord server. Link below in the description for that. That is the best place for notifications for my videos and streams, and is the hardcore Chazza HDF1 community. And also, don't forget to like my Facebook. That's Chazza HDF1 on Facebook. Follow me on Twitter at Chaz6110, and check out my website chazzahd.com for more content like this. But guys, until my race review in about 45 minutes, my incident analysis tomorrow for the Russian Grand Prix, and until the next Grand Prix in Formula 1, the 2019 Japanese Grand Prix from Suzuka, it has been me, Chazza HD. Goodbye.